Yeah, motion to come to order.
Establish the agenda.
Establish the agenda? Thank you.
I move to establish the agenda.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Board?
Aye.
All right, 4-0, board, no students.
Maggie ties on.
Oh yeah, Maggie, sorry.
But
I'm gonna assume that you're okay establishing the agenda. Okay, I'm gonna take that as a yes. So we're gonna go to 2A, partial governance process monitoring, board policy 1800 OE10, instructional program, MISD improvement plan, but
Yeah. Before I have the middle school start, at 5 o'clock, our high school team will join us for their portion of the SIP. At that time, I'll use that opportunity when they're here to provide you an update on the article that was released today by Investigate West, and then information for you as a board. So I'll provide that along at that time. So with that, we can get into this and then go as far as we can in the agenda and then stop at 5 o'clock and regroup. But you had an opportunity last week to be on campus down at our middle school, a glimpse into the day in the life of our middle schoolers, our staff, our administrators, and the parents who volunteer there and give their time. So I want to turn it over to Principal Mary Jo Budges to kick it off. And if you want to do introductions along the way, I'm sure you have it all scripted out on how you want to do that. But thank you, team, for being here. I know that you're really proud of this. I know you're hard on yourselves about what you haven't been able to accomplish in the past. And that's what also makes you great, is knowing that you always want to get better. So.
Well, thank you, Fred. Thank you for having us here today. We really appreciate it. As Fred said, I'm Mary Jo Budges, and Principal, I would love to give each of these fabulous women a moment to introduce themselves, and then come back to me.
I'm Emily Mills. I'm an instructional coach at IMS, but tonight I am here as an admin intern. So thank you for having us today.
Katie Gallagher, I'm an associate principal at IMS.
Denise Thomas, I teach 6th grade language arts.
And she, as you know, is also carrying the weight of Gator Time on her shoulders. And I asked Denise to come today because some of the things that we're going to talk to you about that are in our SIP plan, we're already working on. And I wanted her to be able to share from both the leadership perspective. She is the PLC team lead for our language arts, 6, 7, and 8. And from the student perspective, as we are working to integrate changes already into our classrooms, giving kind of a kid perspective of how those changes are impacting them right now. So we wanted to start, we have a slides presentation that just kind of moves us through the improvement process, but we wanted to come back to our mission statement, and we wanted to really show what it is that we believe at IMS is grounded in the 4 Bs that Fred has been presenting. And it's really interesting, during Dr. Tammy Campbell came and spoke to us on Friday the 10th, October 10th, and while we were listening to Dr. Campbell speak, I was sitting next to Denise, and she would talk about an example of how the 4 Bs could live into reality. And Denise would turn to me and say, "We're doing that." And then she would give another example, and Denise would lean over and say, "You should feel so proud." So we really see ourselves at IMS as living into the 4 Bs continually. And one of the places that is showing up as an issue that we'll speak to, and you'll see in our goal overview, is this idea of challenge. And so anyway, I'm going to move to that next slide. So our SIP, these are just big pictures. We'll get into the actual goals and some evidence around them, but we're going to be continuing to focus on reading, which is born from our goal last year, and really digging into this idea of rigor that came out of our goal work from last year. And then focused again on our student engagement, but the reason is because we want our kids to be drivers and teaching them how to be drivers, which aligns very closely with our work around rigor. So those are kind of the big pictures of our goals for the year. We also wanted to start with some strengths because we definitely have areas of growth, but there are a lot of great things happening at IMS, and we just wanted to pinpoint some of the pretty amazing ones. Our staff, while we can be better and we will continue to grow and learn, our staff is so supportive of being learners. They want to do the work and are willing to tackle hard things every single day. And I think that's reflected with that top bullet where they see a clear and shared focus and they believe we are data driven and therefore they are willing to do hard work. Our kids tell us that there are adults at our school that care about them. They believe that we think their learning is the #1 priority, and they believe their teachers want them to do good work. So I think our data is exciting and powerful. We also we talked already about Gator Time when you guys came to the board, but there is some transformational work that we've been doing throughout the years, and we just wanted to spotlight and lift up the staff and the work that they're doing to try and meet the needs of kids. And last year, we had a reading skills goal, and we did not meet our goal, but we did have some trends upward, and Katie's gonna speak to those trends in particular, but it does show that we need to continue working on this, and we will talk about that in our plan. We had an inclusive education goal, and we have made some serious strides around this. We have introduced a concept that we developed at our school called triads, where we partner a special ed teacher, a gen ed teacher, and a paraprofessional in the classroom, and they are supporting students who have an IEP in the gen ed classroom serving SDI. And we worked specifically with that group of staff, but also built skills in our whole staff around how do we serve the needs of all kids in our classrooms. But we are very proud of the work that we did on that goal. And within that goal, we introduced this concept of a plan, do, study, act cycle, which you are going to hear more about today, that we call lovingly the PDSA. So you'll hear a lot more about that. And then in our academic behaviors, we really introduced the engagement continuum last year, but this year we have a whole plan about how that aligns with our goal around rigor and how we put kids at the center of their learning. So we'll talk much more about the impact of that goal and how it's living into our second PDSA. Katie's gonna talk.
Can I
Data.
ask you a quick question? How do you define rigor?
It's a good
Sorry,
question.
softball question when,
Well, not
No,
so softball,
I know.
maybe. Rigor is a really hard thing to do, but what we define rigor as is kids challenging themselves beyond where they see themselves currently. So an opportunity to grow and push themselves in a way that maybe they didn't initially believe they could reach.
And I think there's a nuance to what Mary Jo is saying, that's also in our evaluation, which is a week 5 tonight, and that is empowering students. And so it's the teachers facilitating students being able to own that and make that. And that's a big piece of being distinguished as an educator. And so I think some people might hear it and say, why is it the student? Well, ultimately we want the student in charge of their learning, and that's the highest level. Different students are going to be there and meet it in different ways, but I think there's important nuance that I always want to capture.
Well, and one of the things that you'll see in our plan this year, different from last year, is actually building in like the clear instruction of how to do that. As opposed to saying you should be a driver, here are characteristics of me being a driver. We are going to build in opportunities for them to practice doing that and see what it means and how it aligns with being able to achieve at higher levels in their learning. I hope.
thank you.
Back to Katie.
So just to really drive home our strengths from last year, iReady gives us so much data, and it gives us so much great data, and sometimes when we finish the iReady diagnostic, we automatically jump to our reds and our yellow kids are the ones who are not making growth, but iReady gives us scale scores, and I don't know if any of you know Jessie Bronson, but she's on our tier 1 community team, And we have had so many good conversations about iReady over the past 2 years. The one thing she keeps telling me is use scale scores, because it gives you direct comparisons. And so an average out of our scale scores from last year, just looking at how much growth overall our 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders did, ignore the 5th grade ones on reading because we have 5th graders at IMS, but they only come for math. But if you look at our math overall scores, our 5th graders who came to IMS for math from fall to spring made 42 points upwards in their scale scores. And you can see the positives. And then when I broke it down more into vocabulary for reading, more informational text, there was areas of growth and then there were some areas that declined. And you can see over the year from winter to spring and from fall to winter was our biggest growth, and then winter to spring we saw a decline, and we kind of changed to that this year and thinking about test fatigue and all of that. But if you go to the next one, we did a fall to fall comparison. So for our cohorts, our last year 6th graders and our current year 7th graders, our scale scores are showing a positive increase. And we just finished our all of our 6th graders, so we unfortunately weren't able to show a comparison, but I am feeling very hopeful that we're gonna see a great increase from our last year 5th graders to current year 6th graders.
So I have no idea what 516.5 and 522.2 means, and I don't think anyone else does. So what does that mean in real terms, in terms of growth and a year's growth, and who's achieving it and who's not?
And to go along with that, I was gonna ask you to kind of define scale score.
Yeah. The scale score is just like thinking about, they got 25 points. So 600 points is however iReady calculates it, but it's just like their overall score of the entire diagnostic. So it doesn't, you can break it up by their on grade level, their below grade level, and all of the nuances into that, which is really what we look at. But if we are just looking at growth, just pure numeric growth, looking at the scale score to do correct, direct comparisons is what is so impactful, because we can see sometimes iReady gets really nuanced in their mid 6th grade level, their above 6th grade level. And that's where a lot of people have issue with, oh, what does mid-6 mean when you're in April of 6th grade, because that's where they should be versus late 6th, but looking at the scale score just gives us a very raw number. So as far as like the number wise, I can't tell you directly what it means for a 6th grader, which number they should be, but it gives us a good comparison. And we'll get into like
To where they were.
to where they
And the parents get their students'
Yes.
number.
And this is what parents see. So when you get an individual student report, it gives you the scale score. So then that's when you see the arrows where it'll say plus 13. So parents get to see that, and that's how they can compare their students from fall to spring.
And it's also really valuable, as you've heard our schools and our district really shift from achievement to growth, this is the way to show that growth. Because just to reiterate and say it a different way, if a student is mid, grade level wherever they are, it's hard to say, well, does mid-grade level a year from now still mean a year's worth of growth? Well, the scale score really tells the picture instead of the words behind that.
Well, and when you go back to the first, and so in 7th grade, we are seeing that drop, that it's just 1.6, and we have been noticing in our data over time that 7th grade data drops. And so that is a place where we are really digging in. We are bringing in some specific reading curriculum and some specific reading strategies and reading comprehension to our 7th graders, because we see this kind of data. And that is even beyond our SIP plan. So just knowing that we are doing lots of things to address our reading data beyond what is in our SIP. Okay, so back to that, but our data does show that we have some places to grow. Our annual growth in reading is not where we want it to be. And it has varied outcomes for our kids. So we do not want to be sitting at these numbers for each kid's typical annual growth. We want our kids making more growth in this. This is a problem.
So, real quickly, to dig into this, does that mean 37% of students in our district aren't learning 1 year's worth of material?
No, and we'll talk about that when we get into our goal number 1, because we have so many kids who aren't showing 1 year's worth of growth because they've reached the ceiling. Like there's the ceiling effect where they reached the top level of iReady, so to show 1 year's worth of growth on iReady is just not realistic.
So like 37% of kids either aren't meeting 1 year's of growth, or we don't have the diagnostic tools to say whatever they're doing.
That's exactly it.
So that's also a problem.
It 100% a problem and something that we're looking at. And you can speak to the use of the mastery tool to try and
Yeah,
address some of that.
I teach 3 sections of high cap 6th grade language arts, and I pulled 14 kids just on Tuesday during Gator time that already tested at a 9th grade level. So they've already exited out of the iReady. So, and most kids in high cap classes are way beyond the diagnostic in 6th grade, certainly by 7th grade. So I feel like that's something that we could continue to think about, is like, how do we measure their growth? But also remembering that they're 11 years old. And when you're reading at a 9th grade level, there's like nuance in just what's appropriate to be reading when you're 11 as well. So.
Well, I mean, if they're ready to read it, shouldn't they be reading it? Shouldn't we be measuring it?
They might not be emotionally ready to read it or.
What I mean by that is when you start getting nuanced into a challenging text beyond a 9th and 10th grade level, which most books are written at, it's the themes, the topics, the concepts that are being addressed in there. And so absolutely they should be continuing to be challenged. But when you think about the text that our 9th, 10th, and 11th graders are reading, I don't know that that's an appropriate text for an 11 or 12-year-old to be reading.
I can think of a lot of complex texts that are appropriate for a 9th and 10th grader, or 9th and 10th-year-old
Teachers.
that are challenged.
All right, Christina?
So I have a few questions, but I will go through. But to address your point, my son was always at that level, and it was such a challenge because I had to actually read all the books before I was able to allow him to read them, because the recommendation usually is that either the story, if it's about a character or a student, I will say, is 2 academic years older than the kid. The themes usually are, the maturity of the themes might not align with the students. So finding that challenge of vocabulary and intellectual challenge with, I would say only with the stories, it was a challenge. That doesn't mean they don't exist, but it is a challenge for a school system to actually find those that will align with the maturity of.
I, as a parent, have not had that problem.
Deborah?
Go ahead.
Are you done? Sorry, Christina.
For those kids that are, since we have quite a number, and I'm sure there's more than the ones that you pulled, is the plan, if there is one yet, to continue to have them doing the iReady English, or are we gonna find other ways rather than, to me, it seems like a waste of time and increasing test fatigue. If we already know that they're tapped out of this diagnostic tool, do you have a plan yet to?
Not yet, but that is, as you know, was the very conversation we were having within our tier 1 community meeting, that we're also having within our tier 1 staff meeting, that we're also talking about at our building cabinet, is how do we measure that beyond teacher-made assessments, which are wonderful, but are not, scaled, normed in the way that iReady is. Denise brought a proposal to our staff, thinking about the use of the mastery tool, but that also caps out. So we were having conversations about how might we use some of the resources that we have access to try and shift that focus.
me. Fred, do you wanna?
I think embedded in this portion of the conversation too is this is where that importance of the work that started last year and continues between our middle school and our high school, because sometimes it's not about trying to find a perfect test to measure it, but rather what are the skills, knowledge, and dispositions so that students can continue to move forward and access the standards in different ways and apply them from there. My request, and I know Director Bullets are going to disagree with this, but the nature of your question seems rather condescending to our staff, who's put a lot of time and effort into this. You can treat me as poorly as you want. You can't treat the staff like that.
Thank you for gaslighting the question.
We're gonna, let this, we'll take just 1 second after, we let Christina go, and then we're gonna finish your presentation, and I'm gonna ask the board just to jot down any questions they have, because I feel like a lot of our questions are getting addressed as you go along, and we're just anticipatory of your exciting presentation. Christina,
I can wait for my.
okay, so board, and if we have any questions, but we'll just jot them down and wait until the end of the presentation and see if they get addressed ahead of time.
So our data does reveal some issues around clarity and consistency of rigor. That idea of how are kids having deep learning opportunities at level 4 instruction, and then really growth opportunities for all kids. So how are kids accessing grade level standard if they are reading several grade levels below as well. So really trying to think about both sides of the coin when we're talking about our two related learning opportunities that we're digging into in this particular set. We're going to be addressing these problems and these related opportunities for learning around building a shared understanding of rigor. And this actually came out of our SIP plan from last year. So one of our action steps from last year's plan was really thinking about level 4 opportunities for our kids. And what we realized is that we were all over the board in our belief about whether or not level 4, and when I say level 4, we're talking standards-based grading, we had really dug deep into the idea of at standard being level 3. And so and this sits on my shoulders squarely, but so we did a lot of work around what does it mean to teach kids to the standard. And what I think we forgot about is that the standard can be much richer and bigger, and that it is our responsibility as teachers to teach through level 4. Our job is not only to teach at level 3 and let kids opt into level 4. So that was something that came out of our data last year, and we started working on that last year, and you'll hear more about that. Also, the idea of embedding engagement and feedback loops within the construct of the classroom, which you'll see happening in a couple of our PDSA cycles. And then again, using this idea of mastery data in a 6-week cycle to monitor progress. That's another way we're going to do it. And then we're strengthening our tier 2 and tier 3 interventions, starting by putting in place cater time, which allows us a time and space in which to do some of this work. How does it connect to the 5-year plan? In so many ways. So we're continuing to strengthen our tier 1 instructional coherence. You'll see that in one of our PDSA cycles. We're deepening access to rigor. You'll see that in several of our PDSA cycles. We're cultivating student agency. All of these things are spoken to in the 5-year plan. So it's super clearly aligned to what our whole district is working on.
Which leads us to the focus of our work. And the SIP plan gives us so much information about our goals. And then we really want to bring you to what we're grounding all of our work within. And that is this work that John Hattie and team have produced. It is the visible learning work. And so visible learning isn't just about student learning. It is about making learning visible for the teachers and the students. So when teachers have clarity and students have clarity, there is transparency, there is measurement, and there is ownership. And those are all big pieces for what we're trying to accomplish in our PDSA cycles. So yes, we want reading growth. Yes, we want social emotional growth, but we want to do this with visible learning at the center of our work. And so really it comes back to the expert learning concept that we built on last year. Expert learners know how to learn. It's not just, oh, I know what the goal is and I can assess. It's really, how am I gonna get there? They're setting their goals, they're monitoring their progress, they're reflecting on that feedback. And there's so much transference happening as well. And so there's a lot for us as teachers that we're just thinking, how can we build on the work that we did last year? Amy Berry's student engagement continuum work and expert learning. So we went to a conference in the spring and learned a lot more about visible learning and how to make sure that we're getting all of the most important pieces for our staff. And the things that we walked away with are these 4 big ideas. And it's really about the seed and soil. That was something they repeated in the conference, because it's, if we're not thinking about the climate, if we're not thinking about students driving their learning, if we don't know our impact, they don't know their impact, and we're not taking that collective responsibility for learning, then learning isn't necessarily happening, achievement isn't following. So what we decided is that these 4 big ideas are going to really anchor our work in our PDSA cycles, which Mary Jo is going to share more about.
Well, and I know that we are running long, so I will try to talk a little less. But again, how we're reaching our goals is integrating that concept of a data-driven PDSA cycle, learning about the visible learning strategies, and really thinking about our impact. How do we know? And it is hard, you guys. It's hard to know if we are making the right moves for kids day to day, but we are really trying to think about how we are doing that. And so we took our one PDSA cycle that we worked on last year, and thank you. Our one PDSA cycle that we really dug into last year around informational text, and we are thinking about rotations of PDSA cycles this year. The first one we have already been engaging in since August of this year. And you see dates on there. That doesn't mean they stop. Yeah, I want to be really clear about that. It's not like we're only going to think about rigor for the first 2 months of the school year. But it is the essence of all of our conversations in the first 2 months. And then we're just starting the student engagement and ownership PDSA cycle 2. And that connects very clearly to what we've been working on in PDSA cycle 1 and builds on that. Actually, Denise created this really cool visual that she was working on with her team to show the overlap. I don't know if you want to speak briefly to that idea of how they match up.
Yeah, so basically my team, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade language arts teachers, we all looked at our proficiency scales that we've been using for years. We revised them, we did a great audit on them. And then we taught the kids specifically how you're reaching a level 4. And then we asked for feedback from them, like, do you know how to get a level 4? What are the key elements of that? And that will continue in the next one that we're starting, and we're just gonna layer in this piece of reflection and metacognition and seeing themselves in the work. Am I taking in feedback? Do I know what I need to do? So it's continuing the work we did in September and part of October, and now we're just layering in this new piece.
So I just wanted you to see the multiple cycles that we'll be going through, each one building on the next, no one being different from the rest. I'm gonna turn this over to Katie to kind of explain a little bit more how it connects to our specific goals.
So our first goal of reading growth and rigor, we are saying that by June, we want from 63% to 70% of our students to meet or exceed their typical growth goal. And iReady measures their annual typical growth by just saying this is nationwide. This is the amount of growth that a student at 6th grade should make. To achieve this though, and this is where it gets nuanced, so students below grade level, we want at least 75% of them to be meeting or exceeding their typical growth goal. Students at or above grade level, we want them to demonstrate growth by maintaining or exceeding proficiency. But we want all students to participate in the mastery monitoring, which is within iReady, that Denise can talk a little bit about as we go into assign and it lets us assess in a better way. And then if you look at the visual on the bottom, these are the PDSA cycles where we're really focusing on this.
Excuse me, real quick question. Does that mean for students at or above grade level that we're just not worried about measuring them for the time being? As long as they're exceeding grade level?
Dan, make a note and we'll get to questions afterwards.
Well, if we were at that point,
Well, then
we had proceeded on, so I wanted to explore it. I mean, that's usually.
go back and we'll make a note and we'll go back if we need to refresh our memories of what we're talking about, but we're gonna let them get through their presentation and not jump in.
So our PDSA cycles, we finished up our access to level 4, and that really helps us, like your question, with our students who are meeting or exceeding this access to level 4, this really deep work that our teachers are doing to be so explicit in how are they achieving a 4, where are our teachers actually saying, this is where I'm challenging you, this is the work that you're doing. That's how we're monitoring that data. Progress monitoring that, so thinking about, okay, how often are we talking about level 4s for those students? How often are we talking about level 3s for our students who are below level? So just thinking about how we can keep monitoring that, and we're going to use the mastery tool for that as well. And then in April and May, we're really going to dig into access of level 1 for those students who are below grade level.
So now that we're done with the slide, can I be recognized?
When they are done with their presentation.
Oh, now it's the whole presentation, like before questions. Is it,
No.
we changed
Right.
protocol?
No, that is the way that
Oh, it's always been, really?
well, that's, no, I don't think it's,
I
it's always
mean,
been,
we can go back.
half an hour earlier tonight, or 10 minutes earlier tonight, I said, that's what we're doing. So that is what we're doing. So please go ahead. She's like, we're done. It's okay.
So just coming back to this idea of what PDSA Cycle 1 entailed, we spent some time examining what are the grades that kids were receiving in our classes. That was really important information for us to look at, like what are the opportunities? What are the opportunities that kids are having to exceed standard? Level 4 proficiency, what we worked on as a staff is this idea that it is accessible, it's available to all students, it's practiced, modeled, and instructed. So before, what was happening inconsistently across our staff is some people, we were teaching to the standard and they were saying, if you're interested, here are opportunities for you. And now we are saying all of us are going to practice thinking at level 4. All of us are going to practice reading at high levels and complex texts. And then not all kids are going to get to level 4, but all kids will have that opportunity to be clear about it. A really important part of this for us as a staff is the idea of student belief. So we also did some work around, do kids believe that they can achieve at high levels? And that's something, actually, again, Denise sent me an email around this very thing saying, hey, this is so cool. Because of the work we're doing, I shifted how I was asking a reflection question of kids, and here's what a kid said to me. I don't know if you can access that.
Verbatim, but the student just said, I just love how I knew exactly what I needed. It was very clear and concise, and I was excited to be able to achieve it. Those are, I'm using it, that's not exactly
And
how she
I
wrote it.
love this unit. I love this unit that we're doing. So
why this matters to us. Goal 1 really matters because our students are highlighting in the ES data that we need stronger instructional clarity. We need relevance, we need engagement, we need ownership. We have 61% of our students saying, my teachers help me learn by challenging me with interesting activities in class. So they're telling us that they need more clarity, they need more just descriptions on rigor, and really we know who the 359 students who didn't meet growth last year were. We know if they were either below grade level or if they had capped out at the ceiling. So those students are so known to us. And we know that growth looks different for every student. And really our goal is we're not chasing test scores. We're not looking for them to reach a certain number. We're looking to grow our students. And so that's really why goal 1 is so important. So smarter goal 2 is around the engagement continuum and the ownership of learning. So our goal is that 100% of our students can clearly articulate what it means to invest and drive in their learning. And that is through family engagement, it's through our whole school engagement, it's through our teachers' engagement, and really we want to increase our clarity and our relevance. And so this will happen throughout the year, but we're really going to focus on it right now when we're doing our engagement continuum PDSA, and then again when we talk about tier 1 essentials at the whole school level. Oh yes. So why this matters is our ES data again is really our students are saying our teachers need to find other ways for me to learn things that are difficult. Our families are saying we are accommodating our students, and so we want to keep up with this.
We also are thinking about these ideas of designing learning experiences that really challenge kids. That is an important part of PDSA cycle 2. So when you look at PDSA cycle 2, you'll kind of see 2 parts. You see teaching the kids the words, thinking about feedback from kids, asking them how they are growing in their own learning, really focusing in on student clarity around 3 questions. What am I learning, how am I learning, and why am I learning it? As the student side of the house, and then as the teacher side of the house, really examining our lessons and looking for where are the opportunities that we are providing kids the space and the instruction and the opportunity to be drivers. We spent our whole professional development meeting today talking through what does this look like for us? How are we going to bring this to our staff? So we are still creating learning for them around this, but this is the place that we are just starting into cycle 2. And lastly, you saw this before, this is Amy Berry's engagement continuum, so much of the language that we are using with our staff and our kids shows up in that continuum. And finally, just another visual of where you'll see us digging into the work. Andrew's the next slide. You'll kind of see this is the same as the slide that had all the words on it. You can always tell it has lots of words on it. I've written it. If it doesn't and it's clear, it has more visual. Emily or Katie have created it. So just another way to see how where we're moving into all of this work throughout the year. Now,
So what I'd like to do is just go around the table, and if people have like maybe a brief question that they might want or some clarifications they might be seeking, we're gonna keep this short and, or not necessarily short, but we're definitely going to keep it less than 2. Students, do you have any questions?
Yeah, honestly, first, I really appreciate the work on level 4 rigor. I know when we were at the middle school, we talked to all these students and they were sort of like, oh, you know, like it's sometimes hard to tell what level 4 is, and different teachers do it so differently. So I'm really, like, I'm so glad to see that you guys are working on that. My only question around that is like, I know when I was in middle school, sometimes level 4 can sort of feel like what we need to obtain, like it is level 4 is the senior. So how do you think about ensuring students don't feel like they have to achieve level 4, that it's more of like a extra add-on?
that's such a good question. I don't know if you want to speak.
Yeah, I think that you were with us when we kind of made this shift, and the teachers were doing a lot of learning around it. And at that point, the 4 was like this exceptional, right? Like it might be something more, it might be something more deeply. And we've actually done a lot of work in revising our scales, so there isn't really extra work anymore. It isn't something you have to do additional, or that you have to reach a certain level before you can try for a level 4. It's nothing like that anymore. But what I found, just with my little sixth graders, is that, I'm still teaching them all the things that they're gonna need to be able to do when they're in 7th and 8th grade. I'm just not scoring them on all those pieces. So they're still being exposed to all the things that they will be asked to do in the future when writing a response, for example. But I'm looking for 2 very specific things, and if they can reach that, in 6th grade, that's a level 4, but they're being challenged because they have access to all these other things, because I know where they're headed in 7th and 8th grade. So there has definitely been a shift, I think, in the way that kids have to present their demonstrated learning to reach a level 4.
Well, and out of this first PDSA cycle, our language arts, so we have kind of reconfigured our teams. They're a little bit more like the high school, and then it's all language arts teachers together. They all picked the same standard that they were really focused in on the first PDSA cycle, and then we're really thinking about alignment, which also speaks to the work that we've been doing with our 9th grade teachers in working to prepare kids and make sure that that transition between 8 to 9 starts to seem more cohesive.
So I guess maybe one of the things is, I mean, I know when you write papers, you're all using MLA citations, right? And so 6th graders are also doing that, but they're not being scored on if they're doing them accurately. But they are asked to do them, they're taught how to do them, but they're not being assessed on if they're doing them accurately. So they have all that exposure, and it just leads them up, through 8th grade then to 9th grade. So that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like when I have that for teachers doing that kind of stuff, it really helps me with that transition on into moving into actually being able to do that and being scored on it with that practice. That's great.
Another thing that we are struggling with a little bit is everybody does want that form. It is challenging. And in one of the slides, I had written a statement that said it's not our decision for kids what's good enough, because some of the language that was coming out of our mouths to kids was, well, 3 is good enough. And what we're really trying to do instead is, where do you want to be? And what you want to be and where your trajectory is and where you want to go is where we want to push you to. Not that this is enough for you. And so that is a pretty big shift too that we're doing. And just one more example, and I'll stop. Always pointing to Denise, but one of the things that she has done is that once a child reaches a level 4, then there are these opportunities for additional challenge, and she's calling it SPICE levels. And so it isn't that learning stops once we get to level 4, it actually relieves some pressure and allows kids to push themselves and challenge themselves in new ways, and allows Denise to push and challenge them in new ways. So I don't know if you want to speak at all.
Yeah, I just had kids say to me, well, it looks like I'm on SPICE level 1, but could I go for a SPICE level 2? So I think now that the pressure is off of this, like, I got it, what does it take, or what, is this good enough? They know they've reached it, and now they're like willing to take some chances and try some new things that maybe they wouldn't ordinarily try, because they didn't want to risk, their 4.
Wonderful. Deborah?
So I guess my question is, when you're talking level 4, are kids assessed on a standard of the grade that they're in, or where they're achieving?
The grade level they're in.
Okay, but that doesn't mean, but levels or standards-based grading is different from growth.
We measure the growth with the scale. So levels of understanding is how we do that. So level 1 is the access point. Level 2 means that students are developing, they're on their way. And level 3 means that they're really demonstrating that they're grasping and understanding the knowledge and competencies of that standard. And then level 4 is really about demonstrating it in a way that gives the teacher and the student the sense that they have that mastery over the skill.
And then the instruction on the SPICE or whatnot, that's where Denise is talking about pushing up into other standards. So now you are pushing into higher level skills. She knows where they're going.
Right.
So when they're starting to access that, so it's not holding a sixth grader accountable for an eighth grade standard, holding a sixth grader accountable for a sixth grade standard, but not being afraid to teach to what level they are. Is that?
Yes, correct. Everything that they are being, that's available to them and being instructed on is all the way up to an eighth grade level. But in my class, their assessment and their score for this particular standard is based on a sixth grade standard.
And do they understand, like your students, do they understand what the level of work they're doing versus what they're
Yes.
being?
Well, I mean, I can't speak to everyone that teaches at Islander, but I can speak for myself, that I told them that when you write a lead-in, or when you are writing a very complex claim, that you are working at a seventh grade or an eighth grade standard, that's where you're headed. You can try it and work for it now, but that's not what I am assessing you on. Your assessment here is that you can write a claim and support it with evidence. All the other stuff is challenging yourself beyond sixth grade.
I'm not done.
Okay.
I know I see the time, but this is
Yeah,
why
no.
we're here. So, I mean, this is why we do what we do. So I just wanted to actually take that opportunity. This is phenomenal. And, you know, I've been doing this a while now and watching you guys grow. And I just wanted to take the time to thank you. So this is what we should be focusing on. And some of the things that I just heard you, so I got to be with Lucy and Brody at the middle school last week. And so, you know, talked to some of the same students and what I was hearing, what you guys are doing is impacting them. I can tell you because they told us in terms of the understanding what it was going to take to gain a level 4, and they were able to articulate it. And my teachers are really working on this to explain it to me. So impact there, that's the feedback that we got when we were speaking with our students. And I was really impressed with that. And they were really happy about it. They were happy about their learning because they understood where they were and where they were going. So that was really great to see. What I really loved hearing about is when you were talking about the learning to learn, and then to take it one step further, is I describe college for me, my experience was learning to learn, but then that's also where I learned to think. And so, like, to create your own thoughts, and I think it's happening at an earlier age now. And maybe kids, I grew up here, maybe kids were doing that and I wasn't, which is fine. I came into my own when I was ready to. But I really like that it's, you know, it's not this recitation of facts anymore. It's what do we do with the facts and where can we take them? Where can we take the facts that we know and form our own concrete thoughts? So I like this learning to think, and I really feel like, to me, that's level 4, right? I mean, that's the way I'm able to put it. So anyways, I just wanted to thank you for all your hard work. It's the last time I get to talk to you guys on the board. And so it's really been a pleasure. Mary Jo and Aaron both know I call the middle school team the dream team. I still think it's the dream team. And, you know, I think that when we look to perfection, I think that we're missing out on so much of what we do, that having a goal that's unattainable is just doing us all a disservice. So just thank you for all of your hard work. And middle school's a tough place. So thank you for dealing with our kids every day.
Thank you for all you do, definitely. Absolutely. I had a question related to if you see trends between the iReady girls and state proficiency assessments with the students, and how do they correlate in each other? And how does that impact how the instruction works from across the system, right?
We are seeing some of the same trends, especially amongst grade levels. So what we're seeing is students for their iReady and SBAC scores at 5th grade, because they take SBAC 5th grade and then 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and then they don't take it again until 10th grade. So we can see that comparison where students come in at the middle school at 6th grade and they have relatively high growth on SBAC and iReady, and then 7th grade there's a drop, and we're really trying to dig into why that is, and we're doing a reading pilot in 7th grade to see. We're really thinking about test fatigue and developmentally where students are in 7th grade. But there is a pretty clear trend amongst like a dip in 7th grade, and then in 8th grade, we kind of see a little bit of a gain again. But it is an ongoing trend, and we've reached out to iReady and to different middle schools in the area to see like, is this just us? Is this different? But generally, I mean, middle school is hard, and 7th grade is hard, and so we're trying to figure out where this trend is and how we can dig into it, and maybe it is engagement, and maybe it is rigor and tier 1 practices, and that's really kind of the heart of our PDSA cycles this year.
So I'm talking about the tier 1 and tier 3 practices, particularly for those who need more support. So I see your data and with the assessments too. So first is, how do you communicate with to parents? Like, I think that most of us received the state assessment. I know that things have changed this year dramatically after the visit compared to last year that my daughter was in 8th grade. But however, that communication piece that you showed me, that this is like what the numbers that the parents receive, but how is that translated, and how often are you communicating to parents? And when they receive the state assessment, how do you communicate or compare or work with those, especially those who perform lower than the expectation, right? That the levels at the 3, right?
Yeah. So we just this year, Andrews did a big push on iReady scores, which is the first time that at the middle school level, we have pushed out iReady scores to all families, like in one message, whereas before it was go through Family Center and then type in this code. So that was really impactful for our families to kind of get to see it in one message and see. And really our conversation with families who come to us with concerns that their students are not making growth, or they are feeling like their students perform better, is this is one day of your child's life for iReady and one day for SBAC, and really looking at the student as a whole and talking to their teachers and looking at their grades. And so it's where we open up a bigger conversation of, yes, iReady and SBAC can tell us one thing, but their learning story is so big.
We've also created, our tech coaches have created these data dashboards that allow us to now be able to put in a student's name, and all of their information comes up along with if they have an IP, what their accommodations are. And so it's allowing us to really dig into a student and see the whole picture of their learning journey in one space that is really helping us to better understand their trajectory. We are working on the school to home connection. At our district directed meeting on Wednesday, I said to our staff, I really want you to put this data in front of parents. I want you to say, this is what you're telling us in your ES data. Here is what we are doing to try and better partner with you, better communicate with you, share the learning journey with you. So we're trying to be more overt in communicating our data to parents and showing them how we are trying to meet their kids' needs.
So, and I feel that this is the time that if you have enough data of iReady through the few years that you have had it, and it will be very interesting to see maybe next year with the pilot program if there's huge differences. Like, I would love to see data comparison on if those kids, particularly those that you see that are not maybe iReady is not for them, or maybe those who are also using the iReady program, but also are part of this program, if there's a huge difference, because it will give a great time to reflect if this is, we should complement, if this is the right rhythm we need to keep using, or so this is a great opportunity to I would love to see kind of the analysis and comparison between that pilot group and see if there's opportunities to implement other or go back. Like, there's both ways, right? So before we go, so I do also have a question. How do you communicate now that high school is here? Like those 8th graders that might not, or you were in tier 1, but they were on the lower end of the assessment, or were to ensure that there's continued growth once they go into high school. Is there a communication or a path that is working together, or something that you might develop during this assessment? So,
Well, for sure, and we work closely, we we are partners together. And it is definitely something that we are working to build, those transition pieces. But the transition between 5th to 6th and 8th to 9th is something that is a focus this year, really thinking about how we are doing that more intentionally. But there have traditionally been lots of transition points. Counselors sharing data with one another, meetings with students who have a 504 and an IEP, moving from one level to the next, teachers having a chance to talk to each other, to our counselors from 5th to 6th. So there are lots of transition opportunities where we've had the chance to share data, but now we have data in a accessible way for kids that we have not necessarily had in years past. And iReady, remembering that last year was really our year one with iReady. Oh, I see Nova's face. Hello. When I say iReady, you appear. And so, we're still early days with iReady, and the high school, this is their first time really having our data.
And remembering that it's the assessment, not the curriculum. So it's not a curriculum piece at the middle school, it's using the assessment.
Yeah, but that is also what we can measure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
The pilot isn't an iReady pilot, the pilot's a different piece, but using iReady as our metric, absolutely.
Yes, and the whole point is at the end is that this multi-tier system of support is also systemically will be sustainable even if after this implementation, but also not only follow the students, but those students that might not have an IEP, but are kind of on that general, like I think that might score lower, but also those who are scoring higher, right?
Well, and our
So I think
pilot,
that's- Yes, no.
our pilot is happening in all Gen Ed LA 7 classes. So every kid, whether you have an IEP or a 504 or not, will experience our reading pilot.
I would love to see it later, how, yes, go ahead.
Yes, I also believe that middle school is tough. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think Big Mouth is a good show for at least adults on that topic. But to return to the question I asked more than 30 minutes ago that wasn't answered, am I correct in understanding that we're no longer going to be quantitatively measuring those students who are performing above grade level because we don't have the tools? And if so, can you please explain that a little bit better?
The tool goes all the way to the 12th grade level. So it doesn't max them out in the diagnostic. So that wasn't clear. So they can test all the way up to a 12th grade level. That's not what we're using for instruction.
But we're no longer gonna report it to the board? Because like on the little second bullet, I mean, we could go back, it's the reason I asked at the time, said that for those that are at or a grade above proficiency, where was it? I think one prior, but there we go. Students at our grade level continue to demonstrate growth by maintaining or extending proficiency. So that means we're no longer expecting, right, or measuring a year's worth of growth. Am I incorrect in that assumption, or am I misreading that prompt?
I think you're misreading the
So-
prompt. Our intention is that all of our kids are still taking iReady.
Understood. But it's the year growth. So we have,
Dan, let's not interrupt, let Mary Jo.
we don't have growth targets for
Dan,
those that are
we're not
above
gonna
grade
interrupt
proficiency.
our speakers,
So I want to understand that.
and she's
I
explaining it,
guess
so.
I'm not sure. Every student has.
Let me
growth
ask you,
target.
you're saying that you are understanding or believe that at the middle school, if a student is above grade level in reading, that we don't expect them to read or have a year's worth of growth,
Well,
and
I
we're not
mean,
gonna measure.
That's what the
No,
liberal
I'm
second
asking if
bullet.
that's what you're asking.
Well, that's what the second bullet says, that we're no longer, as long as they are maintaining or extending proficiency, we are not measuring it.
It says will continue to demonstrate growth by
A year's
maintaining
growth?
or exceeding. Yeah,
Then why doesn't it say year's growth?
well, we can edit it then.
Okay, I mean, it doesn't. I mean, we've been very particular and precise for others. Like I've had questions about elementary growth where high cap growth actually was less than non-high cap growth in elementary school. So I don't think it should be a surprise that I have questions when what are we measuring for growth or not for those that are at or above grade level.
Our middle school is firmly committed to that. One way of knowing is that they haven't regressed, because you wouldn't want them a year from now to have regressed or not gone. And so There's probably an inference in there that we as educators make that is the given. If that's not clear, that's where the feedback is helpful so that we're not miscommunicating it.
Well, I mean, I certainly would not expect regression. I would expect more than a year's growth from those that are the most proficient.
My question is on the same lines. Maybe I can approach it from a different way and see if we can get at something. I guess I'm just wondering, my takeaway from this slide was also somewhat that maybe we've maxed out on our assessment abilities with the kids who are reading at the 9th grade level. I might be misinterpreting your presentation, but then, and if that is true, then how do we, and we have these kids who are maxing out at the 9th grade level in the middle school, which, we encourage, read little children, but then how do we find a challenging curriculum for them? And then how do we continue to assess these kids? And I guess that when I first had this presentation, I heard that we didn't have a way to continue to assess them, and now you're saying that you do. So I think that maybe is a place where we can have some clarification, and I'm wondering if that's something.
Jody, do you see that Nova has raised her hand?
Oh yeah, okay, sorry, Nova, do you wanna?
I would love to. So there are a couple things. As Denise mentioned, the test actually does not cap out at 9th grade. It goes all the way through 12th grade standards. So it's going to continue to measure their growth all the way through 12th grade. What they're in that third bullet right there, they're talking about mastery monitoring. So there are other alternate assessments within iReady that can be leveraged to determine if growth is being made per standard. So standards mastery in particular is an assessment that can be leveraged to determine if a student who is presently sitting at a 7th grade mastery of standard can reach an 8th grade mastery of standard in that same domain. So they can go in and take a look at individual children. They can go in and take a look at class-wise, sort of where the kids are and how they fall into those domains of the standards. So there are lots of other tools within iReady that the team is using to make some of those determinations. I think that what they're trying to portray here, and please, Mary Jo and Katie, correct me if I'm wrong, is that when we look at the typical growth process or something like that, that is maybe not the number that's the best tool, because comparatively, while we do see students grow, we have seen above grade level students make over 250% growth in a single year. So we have seen that play out plenty of times, but it's not necessarily the best for all kids. And so what they're referencing here is just that they're looking for additional tools within the iReady tool to be able to monitor that growth. And so those exist for them. They'll be leveraging those to make some of those determinations.
And I wonder if it would be possible to break out those numbers so that we see and I'm a little bit making this up because I don't remember, but 37% of our students are not making that growth. I wonder if it's possible to break that out to say that, 20% of it because they're higher and they're maxed out at the measuring tool, and 17% because they're not.
Oh, for sure.
For
Yeah.
the reasons that you might think, because it's a little, I think, confusing, but also hard to tease out exactly how much. It's a champagne problem that our kids are maxed out of the middle school assessment in middle school. But, we want to be able to, I think that would provide some clarity and clarification for the board to be able to see that. Dan, do you have any further questions?
No, I mean, we live in a Champaign community. I mean, that's the challenge with governing and overseeing a school district in our community, is that national norms are not particularly helpful for many of our students. So those are my questions.
Thank you. Maggie, do you have a hand up?
I was going to ask about all of the same things that were just asked about, so I appreciate the explanation. Thank you, Nova, and others for your patience and your explanations.
And I will just say that I was so impressed when we were at the middle school last week. Maybe that was it last week.
Yes.
Thank you. Time has no meaning. I just saw, the learning that I saw was so connected and so collaborative. We saw science experiments with kids totally dialed in on what they were doing, really engaged. I saw teachers using the iPads in a way that I thought was half and half paper and half iPad. I saw kids whose native languages were the ones they were learning math in, but then interacting with the class in English, which I thought was a great use of the adaptive technique. And just I had come away from that day with a much better understanding of, how you can be in a class full of people and everyone can learn the same concept in math, but at the level that is best for them, and really pushing their learning. And I think that's what you were talking about. And you're learning how to be a learner or learn how to push yourself. And I see that's what we're doing at the middle school, and I was just so impressed this time. Definitely wasn't impressed before, but like, just it particularly struck me like how engaged and collaborative the classrooms were. And of course, as we know, high school is even more collaborative, and then college, that's all you're doing. So it's really great that these kids are getting these skills now, which they can only be building on. But I just wanted to say, kudos to your team. It was a really impressive day.
Closing remarks for me is just, as we become more and more skilled at looking at the data, and I think you're seeing the evolution of the school improvement plans, and you'll see it with the high school as well. There's a lot of vulnerability there too, because we're really not just looking at, to your point, Director Glow, it's the high performing nature of our district, and not just saying, let's just look at the achievement as the only measure, but rather what are those growth patterns. And we have students who are not yet at standard, not making the growth. We also have students above standard who are not making. And if we're going to be about all kids, I think that's what you're seeing. It also opens us up to a lot of the data pieces. And I appreciate the hard work and the vulnerability that's gone into building this. I know that there's an entire team behind this and a staff who are committed as well, but thank you.
Thank you.
All right, why don't we take like a 3-minute break just while we reset schools so that we can start back and then we go. So that sounds good.
That sounds great.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna come back in from break, and we're starting off now with Board Policy 1800, OE 10 Instructional Program, High School Improvement Plan, and Fred's gonna start off.
Yeah, I think before we get into the school improvement plan, this is, I think, the right time in the meeting to discuss the article that was published today about Curtis Johnston, who retired from our school district in August, and the allegations of a sexual relationship with a student back in the 2010-2011 school year. I guess I would begin with, since being hired, and some of you are on that hiring piece of the school district, our commitment has not changed, and that is to the whole child, to the safety and well-being of every student, to the learning environment that we're talking about in our school improvement plans, and also making sure the school is safe or equitable and accessible. Days like this make a really challenging job even more challenging as you try to navigate things that are highlighted from the past that come forward. But we ask our students and we ask our community that when they see something, they say something. And I think the expectation from them is that when we know something, we do something. And, Mr. Woldnick was hired or brought into the position of principal in September of my first year being the superintendent. And so we've had the opportunity to work side by side. And we continue to confront, we continue to take head on issues when we know them. When you become, the principal of the high school, there isn't a manual of all the things that have happened in the past of the high school, or same for the superintendent, but you do learn things along the way. And today we learn new information based on a previous investigation that has led us to take new actions. And so I wanted to share with you as a board the actions that we are taking immediately and will continue. I'll release more information to the community, but since we were together tonight, I wanted to make sure that you had it as well. So I think first and foremost that any allegation like this is horrific and appalling, and it hits us all in a really negative way as parents, as educators, and as members of this community. And so the diligence and the specificity or the exactness of which we work is important, but the togetherness and the collaboration with that as well. So this afternoon, and this isn't in an order of how we did things, but I just have several points that I want to bring you up to speed as a board. This afternoon, I placed current school teacher David Wilkie on paid administrative leave pending an investigation into concerns that he may have failed to report information related to Mr. Johnston's alleged inappropriate relationship with the student. Mr. Wilkie himself is not under investigation for any misconduct involving his interactions with students. Rather, placing Mr. Wilkie on leave at this time is not disciplinary, but rather a step intended to preserve a calm, focused educational environment for students while we review this conduct. I filed police reports with Merced Police Department today. I filed a CPS report with Child Protective Services, which are all standard practices that we move forward with. Mr. Wold is coming from a meeting right now along with our administrative team with a staff meeting where they met and shared details with the staff and the appropriate information. And then we've begun conversations about how we will address students tomorrow. Following the board meeting tonight, we will meet again probably late into the evening to address the best way forward for not just the students in Mr. Johnston's class, but all students. Again, we need to continue to send the message that our adults are committed to them. They care deeply about them. And whether or not this happened 15 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago, we're going to take everything seriously. It is incumbent upon us to demonstrate to our students, two of whom sit across from me tonight, that we care deeply about them and we want the very best for them. And we've had some teachers, whether confirmed or in allegations, who have not upheld our standards. Mr. Wold.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. And in a day that probably is marked in kind of a dark day, there are some bright lights that also came through this as well. And I will share that I learned of this information around 8 o'clock this morning and read the article and then walked right into our PAC meeting just a few minutes later to discuss this openly with our parent community as well. And many of them had great questions and concerns, but also some pieces that really show that we do have a safe school and that they feel supported and that they have an avenue to share their concerns, and also that they feel like their kids are in great hands when they come to our school in that way. Then I got a chance to meet with Brody and many of our ASB leaders immediately following that. And I will share that our student leaders, both frustrated and gave great feedback about what we can do to really help our students heal, grow, learn, understand grooming, consent, a lot of different behaviors that are not in your reading, writing, arithmetic type of state standards, yet they are critical things for our students to really understand what they see when they're building relationships with adults. And again, sexual misconduct amongst peers, adults, and all of that stuff. And so there was really some great conversation with our student leaders today. And that led into faculty meeting this afternoon where they got a chance to ask some really meaningful questions about what they can do, how they report, how we close the loop with reporting with staff. So some great questions that came from our faculty too. Again, a very raw day for our team and for our faculty as well, especially because they were getting questions from students all day long and how they address those questions with students in live time without a playbook, without, teacher preparatory school of how to address these things. And really it's our staff trying to be authentic. As you don't see notes for me today, I mean, these have to be our values of how we show up for kids, how we represent the safe practices inside of our classrooms in our school, how our students feel like they can report, how to report, and what that information means in moving forward. So while a challenging day, it does give me some solace that we have some staff that are committed to the cause, ready to do the work. We had some students, we ended our faculty meeting with some student comments that were shared with staff members that they are really hopeful that people remember what a great place we have and that they know that this is kind of a black mark, and if you will, in certain aspects, but also that we've got a great place that is safe for students to show up every single day. This is going to be a great learning for our school too of how we can handle this in a really thoughtful manner. The feedback I got from students today really has me in reflection about what the right method to address this directly with students and learning from the fall in kind of our August, September period of time, handling a previous circumstance and then now handling this circumstance of what we learned and what we'd like to do in this circumstance. While not related, there are some pieces that I think are related as far as how we respond and talk to our community about this as well. Got good feedback about from our families today too. Jody was there in that PAC conversation. So yeah, and I think what we'll do tomorrow and what we'll do in subsequent days, we'll take our team and the support of our district leaders as well of ways that we can really do this, but with student voice associated with it. This is their experience and I want them to feel safe and loved and cared for in everything that they do at our school.
So we'll open up a new investigation as well. That's another standard practice. It will be an external, an independent investigation, just like we did with Mr. Twombly, and conduct that thoroughly and participate through on that. I say that we're going to open up a new investigation because I also want to be really transparent that through conversations with the reporter who had reached out to myself and Director Martinez and I had a chance to speak with, there was an indication that someone else had come forward when asked to disclose that source. As any journalist would do, they will decline that they're going to share their source with you. But the information in that matches up with an investigation that was done in 2011, 2012 by the school district, 2010, 2011, would have been the spring of 2011 by the school district into the matter. There's new information that has emerged based on this report, which gives us the opportunity to reopen, but I'm going to call it a new investigation, brand new into the matter. So with that, we can take questions and talk a little bit more about next steps from here. Director Martinez can also speak to the committee that we're putting together, which has 30 people that'll be part of the process. So,
and I'm just gonna start and say that to our community, the thing that struck me about this article, and I only read it this morning as well, quickly before we're in the TAC meeting, was that there's so many people saying, oh, I knew something was going on, or I had, the vibes were off, or whatever. And I'm just gonna implore our parent and student community that if you see something, say something. Like, we cannot open an investigation, you shouldn't assume that everybody knows something. If you have specific information that would be actionable, and let the administrators or let your educators decide, we do have enough to go on. Like I see so many times parents saying, well, I didn't know if it was enough to like look into it. Well, let the people at the district decide that. Give us what you have and let us say, yes, we can look into this, or no, we can't. But it's very painful for, I think, all of us in the district, educated and admin board, to see these people who knew something was off but didn't ever bring it to anyone's attention. And now it's 15 years later, 14 years later, and we're finally learning about some of this stuff. And it's terrible for everyone involved.
And just remember, just to add on that, there isn't a statute of limitations for us. While we know in the matter with Mr. Twombly that there's a statute of limitations piece on the criminal side with the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, they have their process, ours is different. Whether or not it is something that happened, as I said, in the 90s or 10 years ago or yesterday, we'll look into everything.
And we shared that with staff today too, just whether it's a former staff member, current staff member, former student, doesn't matter, that we want to have all of those reports come forward. We want to err on the side of reporting and not reporting. Like, we want to report, we want to get that information, and then to have our Grace report systems evaluate what happens next. But yeah, the reporting is the emphasis for sure.
Brittany, do you want to start with the students?
Yeah, as a student who goes to school here, this is one of the worst things you can hear about a staff member, about anyone who you respect. And I think as an administrator, it's just as bad, if not worse, because you have both a personal and a professional relationship with this person. And because of that, I want to extend a lot of gratitude to our administrators through this time, because this was a busy day, of course, with this presentation and the staff meeting. But I heard from Mr. Wold within 30 minutes of hearing that this article existed. Mr. Wold asked us, he said, what do you want the administrative response to this to be? What do students want to know? What do you care about? And that was a very strong way from our administrative team at MIHS to approach the situation, because I think within the rest of the day, students all around the halls, I was hearing words about it. I was hearing, well, they're going to respond, they're going to do this and this. Everyone knew what is going to happen, and they knew what doors are going to open because of this, and how our administrative team is going to change the way that our schools run. And it's very transparently communicated to the students at our school, whether it be told to one and rely that everyone kind of communicates it around. It's done very quickly, even in a busy time. And I think that they are making changes, which is really respectable that you guys are doing that so quickly. And I feel like, even though this was scary news to hear, I did not feel that much less safe at our school today. I felt like I was still safe, because I felt like there was an anchor, which was our administration, that really cared about our students, and knew that they wanted to do the right thing and knew that they could.
Yeah. I agree with everything Brody said. I don't know, as a student who had Mr. Johnson for 2 years, it's obviously really horrifying to me that this happened. I'm just definitely very horrified by it. Moving forward, the thing that I've thought about, and really, I think you kind of touched on this in here too, is like working on teaching our students what is right and what is wrong in their relationships with adults. You really, as a student, you don't sometimes know what is right. Like, it's, you might not understand as a student that it's not okay to have your teacher's cell phone number or have certain things like this, and really making these boundaries incredibly clear to our students can allow them to report that. Because if they don't know that that's something they should be reporting, then they're not going to report it. And so I think ensuring that our students understand those boundaries, understand those things, like if you can't say something if you can't see that thing going on in front of you. So really helping our students understand that, because you hear so much of like, we kind of knew, like, blah, blah, blah. That is, they should, like, students, I think, don't fully realize that that was something that was bad until after they realize that that person was a bad person. So.
And I think also parents and educating parents around what that looks like as well. And so the conversations that Director Martinez and I have had around particularly the committee forming is thinking about this just isn't about staff. You're absolutely spot on. It's about educating our students. And what are we already doing in our health classes, and beginning with our safe touching units clear down in elementary, all the way through our senior year. What are we doing and what aren't we doing? And what do we need to start doing differently? And that has to do with how we're training ourselves as staff members, how we are communicating, because our students don't just have adults in their lives in the school district either. They have coaches and they have mentors and tutors and others. And, I think we send a lot of mixed messages to students when we say, when I'm participating in athletics outside of the school district, I communicate with coaches this way. It's an opportunity to also try to reset some norms across our entities, and hopefully change some things in some other organizations. We obviously are working really hard each day, but we know we can always get better, and I appreciate absolutely that piece.
I don't have a ton to say today. I think I want to acknowledge that there's a huge place for anger, and that I think everyone has it. I just want to urge people to focus the anger on the places that are to blame, and that focus the anger on places to blame, and then use productive collaboration in places that we can learn and grow. I have a couple questions, and I'm just going to kind of say them all and then let you do your thing. Can you be a little bit more specific? When you say reported, can you be kind of specific in terms of what you learned today, what you reported to whom? I think, I just don't think there's a lot of, like, who did you call? Who, and what are your requirements? And then in doing so, why did you just share with us that Mr. Willicke is now on leave when you did not share that with the community in December 23? What's different? Why did you just make that decision? Can you talk us through that?
I can kind of start with that one to begin with. And I think this speaks a little bit to the quotations in the article today too. And that is, I think this is illustrative of that every situation has differences and nuances. Our student, who was the victim and now survivor of sexual assault by Mr. Twombly, she did not come forward to the media. She didn't come forward to us. We learned about it through a very different way. And once we communicated, she did not want her story told. She did not want her story released. That was not what she wanted. She wanted anonymity, the story not to get out, and for Mr. Twombly not to teach again. And so there were very different circumstances there. This one, we know we have a student who has been willing to come forward, did not share the story with us, which is okay, decided to share the story with a different entity, and it came out through the news. So with it coming out in the way that it has, it really makes it, I think, incumbent upon us now, based on this is out there, how are we going to address this? And we can make that really public as we move forward. I think people have continued to ask and question. We encountered the situation with Mr. Twombly, and I think there are still some who look to me to say, you should have gone forward to the community and told the community about everything. Again, that was a student's wishes and a survivor's wishes of what she wanted. But being able to move forward, that's why we're being so transparent. So going forward tomorrow, we won't have a teacher in the classroom. And so I think it's important for people to know that it's not because there's sexual misconduct allegations, but rather there are an investigation needs to be done around the duty to report what that person may have known based on the preponderance of evidence and how closely that individual worked with Mr. Johnston. People we called Detective White with Mercer Police Department. He asked that I call dispatch and actually start with dispatch rather than with him. So I called the dispatch in King County. They took the police report, sent it over to Mercer Police Department, then they called me back with the start of the case number or the incident number. And so I was able to report some of what was reported right in the news today, sharing the article with them. And because of the allegations of the sexual misconduct and actually the sexual relationship that this student had with Mr. Johnston. So then the other people called CPS, called the line there on CPS, spoke with the person there, filed the CPS report. I assume typically what they do is they circle back with Merced Police Department as well. And so then it will go to our school resource officer. So there'll be a second way that it actually gets to the Merced Police Department. And then immediately called our support team through our risk management pool, who helps to assign us the investigator, so that we're not selecting our own investigator, which is part of a normal process. So those are some people that I spoke with. Does that help?
Yes.
Director Lynn?
Thank you. Christina?
I want to be the last one.
Okay, fair enough. Dan?
It's now clear that the concerns about sexual abuse in our high school extends beyond one teacher or one traumatizing relationship and survivor. It's about a discriminatory and predatory culture in the English department that involved multiple teachers and persisted for years. These were teachers who had a lot of power, who held themselves out as gatekeepers to getting into prestigious colleges and universities. And it's pretty clear that the district administration let this go on for years. They either looked the other way or actively tried to hide what was happening. This isn't some old problem from way back when either. These teachers were still working in the district until recently, and they've been around for decades. Plus, some of the administrators who knew about the allegations and either did nothing or quietly swept it under the carpet are sitting here in this room tonight or working in neighboring districts. Trust is totally shattered, and it feels like the current administration is unable or unwilling to do what's needed to protect our children and restore the confidence in our community. The next steps are obvious. As I and others in the community have been demanding, we need to bring in an independent third-party law firm with experience into these matters that can dig in and figure out what happened and what we need to do to make sure it never happens again. Part of that means immediately releasing the district's own investigations into Twombly, Johnson, Aero, and any other teachers accused of sexual misconduct. We also need to know how many teaching assistants these teachers had over the years, and if anyone's talked to them. And are teachers still using unauthorized means to talk to students, such as text messages or Snapchat? If so, why? As Shakespeare wrote in Hamlet, something is rotten in the state of Denmark. And as Kendrick Lamar, a more recent poet, put it, I don't believe I'm an angry person, but I do believe in love and war, and I believe they both need to exist. There's a time for justifiable anger and accountability, and that time is now.
I'm just to follow up on Dan's statement and say it's not clear that the English department was hiding predators or hiding this information. It's not at all clear that this is something that people are trying to cover up. Stating that does not make it true. And I think we don't need to anticipate the work of the committee that Christina's working on to come up with some recommendations for the future. I think there are a lot of things that the community at large, and this came up in our PAC meeting today, a lot of things that the community has been asking for in general, are wondering if something's available, if there are things that the district is already doing, things that regularized training, mandatory reporting training, the things that we're already doing. So I just want to clarify that it is not at all clear that there is any kind of culture in any specific department at the school. Either, I can't speak for, 15 years ago, but I'm not going to say that that's something that's clear that's happening today. And of course, obviously, it's not at all clear that what administrators in other school districts are doing has any relevance to really to the attitudes of our administrators here today. Go ahead, Nick.
I just want to address some of those comments that were made by Dan. I can't speak to the administrative team in 11-12 or in 16-17, but I can speak for this administrative team that we have no interest in sweeping anything under the rug. We have an interest of protecting our kids and being really transparent of our process of how we plan to handle it. So I have no interest of moving anywhere but forward in directly handling all investigations and claims that come through our school and for our young people. So I have no interest in that whatsoever. Our administrative team does not, and we have a pattern of actually handling investigations and anything that comes across us in a very thoughtful and transparent way.
Well, I think a good
Wait,
point
wait,
to
wait,
start
wait,
would be, let's release,
Hey,
let's release Twombly, let's release the investigation into Twombly. Isn't that the natural starting point?
stop, either we're gonna take a break.
Is that the natural
We
starting
can
place?
take a break.
Like, what about the investigation that was like?
We're taking a break so that you can gather yourself, or you can sit quietly and wait to be.
We're gonna do another investigation, even though we haven't even heard the one that was concluded? I mean, come on.
Dan, you can either take a break, we can take a break so you can gather yourself, or you can wait to be recognized.
Well, let's hear some sensible
But we're going.
replies.
Excuse
we're
me,
going
this
to
is
work
your
in
staff.
order.
I understand.
It's my staff. You want to treat me like that? Go ahead. Do not treat these people.
Well, what's
who
no,
work
why
hard
haven't
every
we,
single
why
day.
haven't we released
All
Twombly?
We're taking a 5-minute break. So that
Why?
you can gather yourself.
Why?
then, I think remaining, we have Christina had some questions and maybe an update on.
No, I don't have questions, I just have something. to
Okay,
say.
yeah.
Like, no questions, so, I think that, I'm hearing all of you, and I will say that I've been working with Brad, and I will continue working with the formation of the committee, and I think that is, first of all, I am just like you, appalled and angry that this is happening. I think that it's what it is, period. So I recognize that everybody is in this, that we have the same concerns about how institutions respond to allegations of misconduct. We are one of them. It's not only our district. This happens in a lot of districts, and every district is in the same spot, saying like, students want and demand to know how institutions are responding to these allegations, because this happens across the country. So we are taking this opportunity to take a clear look at how our system is working. And the formation of the committee is already in place. We will have our first meeting in November. The scope of the committee includes reviewing district policies, training materials, response procedures related to inappropriate behavior. This also includes how reports of staff misconduct, including teachers' misconduct, are investigated once they are brought to the district attention. And it could be either to the district, this is how we respond. And I will say that for those who said, like, please, if you know something, say something to the district, or there's the police department, other mandated reporters, so action can be made. These procedures will be, will need to be investigated, So we will ensure that all the procedures that happen, that are investigated, are always aligned by the law and by best practices and current practices. Okay, so that is also important to know. We have a few key partners that are community partners. We have students involved, parents involved, school district, teachers, police department, OSPI, King County Sexual Assault Resource Centers, to ensure that we see this in a multi-system approach. I will say, and this is stating along with what the article said, that maybe an audit was important, and I will say that they're not exclusively and should be independent. That is the recommendation of the committee, the district, the staff, or the board. They can work together. At the end, the whole point is that we will ensure that this institution, our schools, are safe for every single student. That staff feels safe coming to work, that students feel safe coming to work, and this is what it means, that we have a thriving school district, that students are able to work and learn without with these allegations. I think that I'm not taking this lightly, and I don't think that anybody here is taking it lightly. I think that we inherit these two problems, and it's inherited because you were not at the board, none of us were here. We know that we might have to see beyond, and that may include some of your ideas. And I would love to have a written report of your ideas, so when is the time we can incorporate that in this work. And I don't think that we're shying from this problem. I think that we are looking at it in a way that it is not the district who is trying to solve this. It's not the board that's trying to support the staff. It's as serious as it can be to have the experts and the right people on that committee to ensure that the recommendations that we come on for policies and procedures or curriculum is meant to ensure the safety of students. period. And this is as serious as it can be, and nobody is shying away from this either. And I will add, that includes that if we have to go back and see some things, but the whole point of this is that we have to ensure that our kids have a safe environment to learn.
Transparency is double speak, as long as we have not even taken the initial step of releasing our investigations
We're
into
gonna-
ARO and into Twombly. I mean, like, that's common sense.
And I will continue on this, because I know that you keep saying something, but at the same time, when it's time to take actions, this is taking action and being proactive. This is something that it is going to have an impact on the students. It's not easy as saying, like, I am just gonna say, everybody just email me all the allegations. That doesn't work, because it has to be in best practices. It has to be absolutely under the law. So this cannot just be taking it lightly, okay? So there's something that are easy to change, like saying, like, students cannot text to teachers. That has.
Or parent, or teachers, like, let's not put the burden on students.
Well, it is either way. So that doesn't matter. It's like there's no one-on-one communication. That is totally okay. Those are things, but I'm gonna finish this and then we can switch. So there's simple things that either today, maybe with the meetings tonight, you will continue to see what can be addressed that can be to making it an action. But then the others, it is not. It is not, and it's going to be a serious committee that will report to the board continuously, and then also the district will communicate to the community. So everybody is informed, and it will be as transparent so that everybody knows what is happening. I think that this is the opportunity so that we can make a change on the things that matter. So we want the kids to feel safe and learn in a way that they can say. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, okay. I just want to recognize that this is a rough day for us all, especially our high school administrators who've been dealing with this all day. I want to apologize to the room for raising my voice earlier. That's not something I like to do in meetings. I'll try not to do it again. And Fred, do you want to tell us where we're going from here? Or do you want to?
I wanted to round out the committee because I think you did a great job kind of articulating who these 30 people are. In addition to the ones that you named, we have partners from DCYF, MIPD, the PSESD, you mentioned OSPI, UW. There's a partnership between UW and Harborview, who I've been talking to, and not only will they be helping us along the way in our committee, but they've also been advising on how best to set up the committee. They're very appreciative that the committee wasn't formed just to start working right away or have tasks that already have to complete. They were appreciative of the thoughtfulness of which we're starting to put it together, and the way that we've tried to really think about who are the people. Mr. Steen will be there representing the high school. We have high school athletic coaches who will be part of it, and two of our students, they sit on the King County's, the KSARC advisory board. They're on the committee. And so what I appreciated, especially Director Martinez, is that we will solve this. It's not going to be any one person or one entity. It has to be us talking about, what does this look like, and whether or not those allegations are in the past or now, we're going to look at this and we're going to continue to address them straight away. With respect to, for the board, just for your knowledge, any records requests that have come through, we continue to meet all of those records requests and release reports or documents or things that come forward. So as those have come forward, we continue to comply with that component.
Office of the Education Complex might be an independent agency to reach out to.
But, and I will also just ensure that this is also, that the community involvement has been thoughtful and included, because we want to ensure that diverse perspective of the people who are affected, and those students that will be impacted first are included in the recommendation. So it is vast among the community who are included in this committee. So.
And recognizing the hard work that you've put into your original goal for tonight, which was the student school improvement plan, I'm going to work with the president to reschedule that in our agenda planning for another day. I think we have our hands full with tonight, and I'm sure you're overburdened with meetings. So thank you for being here. If you're able to present it, you can move from that. Okay. We have 10 minutes before 6, so let's try to maybe go through a couple things on our.
Why don't we do, Jamie, are you ready to do 2D, the policy revisions for the instructional materials policy?
Yes.
Or would you like a few
90
minutes?
seconds? Can you give us a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if you can hear me, but all those of us out in Google Meet land can't hear you. Yes. Okay, it's back. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I'll turn it over to you, Jamie, to talk a little bit about the instructional materials or the changes.
The changes. So the changes really just align with the WASDA model policy. It changed some of the definitions of language. Everything is marked up to align with the model policy. This is what we use to guide how new curriculum is presented and adopted. And so there is a formal process by which a group, whether that's a specific physics textbook adoption or it's the entire literacy curriculum in elementary. Anything that is considered core curriculum goes through a vetting process. There is a small subgroup that initiates, they start the process, they work with their principal, they work with the director in teaching and learning, and they vet materials, they work with vendors, they have presentations, they go through a series of biases checks. There's lots of layers and that then result in a final selection, usually with community and parents have an opportunity to review the curriculum. Previously, we placed it here at the district office. People can come and review it, provide input and feedback. We've got educators, we've got students, we sometimes have parents or community members. And then that group then decides and selects a curriculum. That is then presented to the Instructional Materials Committee. We have that group was approved by the board. We have to approve the membership annually. That also includes students, parents, educators, administrators, teachers, etc. That group then hears presentations from the groups with the potential curricular adoptions. If the IMC approves after a presentation, they review all the materials. That then is brought to the board, and there is a presentation to the board, and the board officially approves curriculum. So this policy is just putting it in line with, like I said, the WASDA model policy, and ensures that we have the most current and accurate process for approving curriculum. It is not a simple thing. It is, there's a lot of paperwork, there are a lot of meetings, there are a lot of opportunities to ask questions, dive in. Oftentimes we get to get our hands on the materials, review them, do a deep dive before making a consideration. So this is ensuring that we've got a clear, up-to-date policy that guides that work.
So basically bringing it into alignment with the WASDA model and absolutely. Okay. So this is something that we can either take action on by voting on tonight, or we can just move it to the consent agenda for our next meeting. That's good.
Yep, either.
Okay, do we guys feel ready to vote on this tonight? This is basically, we saw.
I'm fine with voting on it tonight.
Okay, sounds good. Then let's do that. Do I need a motion to do that?
Yes.
Okay, so motion to vote on the.
I move we approve board policy 1800 OE9.
Seconded.
Thank you, students.
Aye.
Choose, board?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, 2050, and passes. Thank you so much. All right, and that brings us to the 4 minutes shy of 6, so.
I think we have students who are here ready for some recognition, so we can go right into recognitions if you'd like.
Okay. Board, do we need a break to get to our, okay? No. Then, let's do it.
I'm sorry, are we doing it now or?
Yes.
Nope.
Let's do it.
Make sure we recognize.
All right, I am excited to bring forward the second consecutive year. We've got a Mercer High School student who's moving forward or coming to us as a state champion, a distinguished that highlights both individual excellence as well as the strength, I think, in the DECA program, the support of parents who are here tonight, and educators. So I want to introduce you to Isaiah Kokolovich.
Kokolovich, yeah.
Kokolovich, even better. He earned top honors at Washington State's stock market game, a year-long competition outpacing 400 teams from 18 different schools across our state. The game, operated by SFIMA, the foundation that oversees it, offers students a chance to manage simulated $100,000 portfolios. Through hands-on experience buying and selling stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, students learn not only about financial markets, but also about decision-making, economics, and strategic planning. I'm going to save and allow you to talk about your strategy and how you went about that, because as I read, it's truly fascinating to think about how in-depth you understand the markets already. So Isaiah, congratulations. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And then Ms. McClellan, you can probably talk a little bit about the competition.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Arnold. Yeah, so last year was actually my second year consecutively doing the stock market game, although my freshman year was actually highly unsuccessful. I got, I think, 200 something out of 400 teams. I learned a lot about how to analyze stocks, about risk taking. My first year, I took a very conservative approach. I only invested in blue chip stocks and in mutual funds, more conservative. It was something that you would see from an adult, not from a kid who's trying to, win this game. And I learned a lot. And so the next year, I looked up the most volatile stocks I could find. I conducted fundamental and technical analysis, a combination to find the most volatile stocks, the most volatile sectors, which were quantum computing and biotech. Did my research, picked my stocks, and then I still had my 10% to raw materials and gold. I still had 10% in bonds, 10% mutual funds, and then 30% in blue chip stocks. I had Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Tesla, kind of those larger cap stocks. And then I had my more volatile stocks. I had a stock called IonQ that was really successful for me, and I had a stock called Rocket Lab. One of them was quantum computing. The other one was in biotech. And then I kind of make little tweaks from there and watch the money grow.
And that is.
Yeah, it was only so easy, yeah, guess who I'm gonna stay in contact with
Yeah,
this
right.
year. I, two overarching comments here, one is that we continue to be so fortunate with the caliber of students that arrive at our front door and, their commitment and our DECA students as a whole and definitely an illustration right here that all of our students are just incredible kids. We've had multiple come through our classrooms. So I wanted to just acknowledge that, but really acknowledge what this means. This is an independent project. So he did this on his own. We as advisors, DECA advisors, can't claim any credit to this. This was his initiative. Stock market game is by definition an independent experience. So we know it's happening and we're available for insight, but Isaiah is just an extraordinary person. So I really want to acknowledge his ability to do this on his own and all of that. And then the work that went into it. It's not just picking stocks out of the blue, a tremendous amount of research and being involved with what's going on in the market as a day-to-day basis and things like that. So above and beyond his usual schoolwork. So we just couldn't be prouder. I think the last thing here is to acknowledge what a feat this is for him, but also just for our Mercer Island kids that we've won this not 1 year, but 2 years in a row. That's extraordinary because we're going up against, it's not we, they're going up against the best of the best in our state. So cannot be more proud. So thank you. Thank you. Yay.
As someone who began his career on Wall Street in the financial crisis, I appreciated hearing you describe like your rationale and the volatility and recognizing the gamified nature of this contest and being able to articulate how to game the system. My only piece of advice if you want to go to Bridgewater or other hedge funds is to say that it's all skill rather than the roll of the dice and the volatility, but recognizing what it takes to win is important, and also realizing the artifice, but the lessons as well is important.
Yeah, a ton of, so our grade on the stock market assignment itself actually went into the research. It had nothing to do with the success of our stocks. That was kind of an added bonus. So the grade was purely based off of how much work we put into picking each stock. And that's probably the lesson. Although I learned a lot from, my success, I think I learned the most from I learned about, how to diversify a portfolio, how to pick stock, fundamental and technical analysis, all that stuff. I think that's definitely what I took away from it the most.
Anything else? Great. We'd love to get a picture with you and Ms. McCollum and the board. So I think it'll be easiest, where do you want, inside? Okay, so we'll put you on the inside here.
Line up in front of the logo. You in the middle.
Yeah,
And in front of us.
the great and powerful.
We're good.
We all move a little bit. Isaiah, stay in the center.
Okay.
Back up a little, so you guys are all, okay. On me, 3, big smiles, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Mom and Dad, you want photos?
Yeah, right.
You need a photo?
You get credit here. Absolutely. It's all in the parenting.
Always.
Oh, yes, right, exactly.
I think Mom and Dad have to be on
Yeah.
your side.
I wish I could do what he did.
Yeah. Give us some money too. That's right.
Okay, Jody.
I feel like content, yeah.
Okay, you're good. I can see you all. Okay, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Perfect.
Great.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank you for venturing out tonight. Yay. Good job. Oh my gosh. I think I got cut.
You said the best. You got it.
Yeah.
It's on the early side, but I.
All right, so our next group that's coming forward, we have 5 of our 13 seniors who on September 15th were announced as 2026 National Merit Scholarship semifinalists by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. And I'm going to have you introduce yourselves here in a moment. But just to put that into perspective, always want to remind our community about how prestigious and what a recognition this is. So our 13 students, 5 of whom are here tonight, represented 16,000 different semifinalists in the 71st Annual National Merit Scholarship Program. All of these students, academically talented MIHS seniors, have an opportunity to continue in the competition for some 6,930 other National Merit Scholarships out of those 16,000. The scholarship purse is worth nearly $26 million, and it will be offered next spring. And so I know that it's not just about what you did in 1 year or 2 years. It's a compilation of really all of the work that you've done in your K-12 experience, inside, outside of schools, and we're just so proud of you. As another fact, over the last 4 years, we've had 41 semifinalists. And so while that's a big number, it also doesn't represent a huge number compared to all of our graduates, which makes it even more prestigious. So let's start here. Introduce yourself. And I know you're in the midst of applying to colleges and going through that entire process. So if you're ready to disclose anything, you can. If it's a big secret and you're not ready, superstition is not a bad thing, so go ahead.
I'm Aditya. I'm a senior at MIHS. I'm applying to college for computational biology.
Awesome. I'm Jet Jones. I'm also a senior at MIHS. I'm applying to college for electrical engineering.
I'm Derek C. I'm also a senior, and I'll be applying to environmental engineering.
I'm Maddie Seekhouse, and I plan to pursue a career in dance. I'm Selena Zhao or Xintong, and I am doing probably environmental engineering.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the road ahead and kind of the different pieces? Have you been engaged in that process yet in terms of the next steps?
So we've done like the National Merit semifinalist application, so next is becoming a finalist, and that's just analyzing different characteristics like GPA and SAT scores. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
And for those who don't know the process, what does that application involve? Because it's not just a simple little thing either. So.
Well, you fill out a lot of stuff, a lot of your own information, a lot of your parents' information. You also have to write an essay, which is essentially your regular essay for colleges. It's just tells us more about who you, who you are, etc. Some more qualifications for National Merit Scholarship finalists is they have to show, as Aditi said, like continuation in good grades, good like SAT scores and ACT scores to prove that what you got wasn't a fluke. They also need like to just sign a few waivers and stuff for it to be disclosed. Am I missing anything?
I think there are also some awards, like additional awards, activities inside of outside of school. So pretty comprehensive application.
Questions or other thoughts on the board?
This couldn't be more impressive. I mean, the 5 of you here, obviously, I particularly like to see someone involved in the arts, also like pushing it on her standard tests. And I think it just speaks to the, excellent the education that you guys are able to achieve in the Richard Island High School with this 13 semifinalists, out of like, I'm gonna say a lot of people who took the test. So it's very impressive achievement. I couldn't be more proud of you guys and your like achievements and awards. I can do math as well, even though it's not an SAT. But you're to be congratulated, and good luck on the next stage of the thing. But even just doing this is such an achievement in itself. It's really impressive.
Thank you. I will echo what you're saying. I think that it is impressive to see all of you, and I think that this process also will grow in your learning in the future and how you're going to be able to apply or achieve college. And I think it's a great segue to college. So congratulations to all of you.
Thank you. We want to introduce.
Yeah, welcome in. Good to have you. Want to do introduction and kind of future plans that you're thinking about?
I'm Elsa, and I'm planning on studying journalism.
Well, please join me in congratulating this group of really talented students from our high school. What's easiest behind for this one?
Yeah, so if the board directors.
We're gonna have two, just come right this way and go right behind the board.
You guys are gonna be chairs? Yeah.
Parents, get your cameras ready too.
So Elsa, stop right there. Okay. And everyone can see me. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Parents, want to come up? Any parents that want to take photos?
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Just a couple other. Couple of things upcoming between now and your next board meeting. First of which we're about ready to close out National Principals Month. And so I'll have an opportunity to be with our principals and at our monthly meeting coming up next Tuesday. But the tireless effort that all of our principals put into the schools each and every day to meet students, meet staff, meet families, and make sure the learning can happen. So that will end at the end of this month, and then we'll be heading into November, which is Native American Heritage Month. And we also have Veterans Day, which is on a Tuesday this year. And I know that that's going to create a little bit of a different week for some, but it is one of those holidays that we celebrate on the 11th of every November. And so it falls on a Tuesday, but I think it's an important opportunity, and maybe that awkwardness is a good thing for us to stop and think of it not as a long weekend, but a day that we should be thinking about all of the veterans that have served our country to keep us safe and protect our freedoms. With that, that is the recommendations.
Okay. And do we have public speakers here? Okay, so good. So this is the public recognition, public input part of the meeting. And I'm just going to read our little boilerplate script. School board meetings are business meetings of the board held in public. Public comment is an opportunity for community members to provide input on the work of the school board and the district. It is not a time for dialogue between the board and the public. Board directors do not respond directly to public comment. However, the board's silence should not be taken as agreement or disagreement with the speaker's remarks. The board may later direct the superintendent to respond to issues raised during public comment. Public comments must adhere to the same level of civility that the board expects of itself as specified in board policies. Speakers may not use threatening or profane language in comments and may not direct individual attacks against staff, students, administrators, or board members. Please note that comments have the potential to violate the rights of others under laws protecting privacy and laws prohibiting defamation. Comments that name a district student are not permitted without permission of that student's guardian. The board president will cut off speakers who violate any of these rules. Their speaking time will be ended. Speakers should state their full name for the record at the start of their comment and their relationship to the district, if any. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to comment. If you wish to make a comment in person tonight and have not yet completed the public input form, blank forms are available at the entrance to the boardroom please complete the form and hand it to Michelle Mueller. And we hit the cutoff time for online. So thank you so much. And the first public comment we have is Rob O'Callaghan, who is, oh, here he is.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rob O'Callaghan. I'm a single father with 2 kids in the district, and we moved here for the schools. Like many parents, our public education is our only option. This issue feels deeply personal to me. When I read this news this morning, I was upset. This is the second case of alleged misconduct since August, and it's painful for every parent, teacher, and student who cares about our schools. This isn't about blame. It's about reflection, accountability, and making sure our systems work as they're intended to protect and support every student. What has been done differently since the last resignation in August? Have families been informed? Has a third-party review begun? Have students, past or present, been offered support or counseling? These are questions many of us are asking because we want to trust that every possible step has been taken to ensure safety and healing. I know how hard this is for everyone, for administrators trying to keep complex situations managed, for staff doing their best to care for students, and for the students who might feel uneasy or unsure. That's why transparency, empathy, and communication are more important than ever. We need a clear and independent review process when serious issues arise, one that ensures impartiality and rebuilds confidence. We need strong and honest reporting systems, anti-retaliation protections, consistent training on professional boundaries, and timely communication with parents when something happens. I've advocated for these reforms, independent investigations, leadership accountability, and student protections since the first story broke in August, when it was tough to speak out. We need to support our educators, many of whom serve with integrity and compassion. They deserve a workplace where expectations are clear, trust is managed, and everyone feels safe. As a father, I just want every student to feel secure, respected, and heard. That's not just policy, it's the heart of education. In my work leading teams in technology, I've seen that collaboration and transparency leads to real results. As a parent, I've learned that real change begins with listening. I believe our community can come together to make this a turning point, one where accountability and compassion move us forward. Thank you.
I'm just going to note that Mr. Callahan is also running for school board in the current election. Do we have anything else? No? Dave Myerson, former school board director.
I'm Dave Myerson, former parent of students, school board director, and former school board director. Here we go again. Here we are again, rather. After the first 2 alleged sexual predation incidents were swept under the rug originally, now a alleged incident with another teacher, again continuing to teach at Mercer Island, this time for 14 years. And I regard that as a big problem. There were people who knew about this problem and should have, or may have, transmitted to the present generation of administrators. I have not talked to Fred, so I don't know. All these incidents occurred when I was on the board, and I never heard a peep about them from the superintendent or his employees. I regard that as a big problem. Considering we spent massive amounts of time addressing student bullying, including every time kids of differing ethnicities threw a snowball at each other, the failure of the board to discuss the presence of suspected sexual predation is striking. You should be addressing the problem of sexual predation before worrying about another bond issue, and even the necessary levy, which may be also impacted at the ballot box. A board committee. I know you have a committee being set up, but my idea was this before I got the full information. A board committee, independent of the superintendent, I think should be constituted by board vote with power to appoint members from all quarters on Mercer Island to address the problem. Experts in the field should be consultants. A system independent of the compromised administration should be set up to address accusations of sexual predation by school employees. If there is a problem with the union rules, they should be renegotiated, as I doubt the union is in favor of sexual predation. You may also have to insure school board members from possible personal lawsuits, but that's a side effect of transparency. The lackadaisical response of the administration over the years should never be allowed to continue.
Right, John Anderson.
Does it start now?
Yeah, let's start.
Once you start speaking. Oh, once I start. Well, I'm John Anderson. I have two students at the high school. My daughter's 8th grade. She'll be there next year. Well, today I asked the boys, I'm like, how was school? They said, well, there's another sexual predator apparently here at the high school. Well, in this case, said everybody's freaking out at high school, including a lot of people that are trying to get their college apps in. It's just a sad day. I couldn't believe it. I mean, in this case, there's two that have been at the school for a long time, and I know it's getting dealt with. I'm happy with the fact that there's more going on and it was dealt with today. That makes me feel good. I think from a community standpoint, there seems to be just a pattern of a lack of transparency. And I think that's kind of the crux of the issue, at least for a community member like me. It seems like these things happen or they come out in the media and then everybody's scrambling. But I would just ask that there's transparency as to who knew what and when, and if that's a part of the members of this board or anything else, it just be dealt with. These schools are great. I really appreciated honoring the students in that, and I would love it if we could get back to more of that and have less of this other stuff. It's absolutely embarrassing. I mean, I'm shocked as a community member. I can't believe it. And, to have two individuals, and I know it was a prior board in that, it's appalling. So that's all I have to add. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's it. All right, that's the end of public comment. Thank you all so much for participating. And should we just go back to?
Yep.
Okay, so we can get back practically to the.
On 2B.
All right, so we got 2B, Board Policy 1800 OE6, Budgeting, Financial Planning, Resolution 747, Authorization of Replacement, Educational Programs, and Operational Levy, second reading.
No additions or amendments or changes since the first reading you had a couple weeks ago. And so this is the second reading for us to answer any lingering questions before you consider a vote. So we are happy to, Superintendent Sullivan and myself, happy to take questions.
Anybody? This is the first reading at our last meeting, right?
Yep, first reading was last.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no secret that at a high perspective, the structural level, I think there's issues with state funding and with the discussion around a shortage of funds. I can bring out the statistics. Revenue per student is not adjusted for inflation. It's the same now as it was at its high water mark 5 years ago. So there's not a lack of funding. At the same time, I don't believe that the enrichment levy or the maintenance and operation levy, by putting it in doubt, I don't believe that's the place to deal with the more structural issues. I think it would put Mercer Island at a competitive disadvantage, and I think the reality is that there would be a significant impact. Which is to say, like, I am for submitting this to the voters. I personally will endorse and support this levy. At the same time, I think that it should not be an excuse to say that we cannot provide or afford the curriculum that our community expects when we're paying as much as we ever have. And let's just focus on the structural issues, let's focus on policy, let's advocate what's good for Mercer Island rather than just buy in to certain state rhetoric that's pushed by organized labor.
Anyone else? So, do my So, just to remind us all and remind the community, as Dan said, that operational and educational programs, this levy is very important. We just looked at our national merit semifinalists or our students at this table, and all those extra math classes, all those extra science classes, all the extracurriculars that our students are doing are possible because we have a 7-period day in our school, and that's possible because some large percentage of our budget,
about 25% is made up by both levies together, the CapTech and the EPNO levy.
So, nobody at this table is contemplating anything scary. Don't panic. But the fact that our students are able to achieve at such high levels and are able to both take, advanced band and advanced math and advanced science is because we have the offerings that we have the 7-period day, we have the student support that we have, and a lot of that comes from our levies that we have feeding into our systems. So I, like Dan, am also supporting and endorsing this levy, and I just think that this is such a critical importance to our students, to the high achieving schools that we have, and the programs that we hear over and over again that Mercer Island families really, really value as part of their children's education.
I think Fred wanted to.
I just want to reiterate, it actually builds on yours, but also reiterates Director Glowitz's point, and that is, at least in our state, local communities, it's almost, I think by our legislatures come to be expected that our local communities pass levies because that's the way that we can make ourselves whole. And without that, many of the things you just spoke about cannot happen. And so I think to your point, Director Glowitz, where we want to see change or how we want to see change can be debated and argued beyond that. But this isn't the issue to take it up with because it's so fundamental to not only our district, but I think as we talked about in the last board meeting, every single district just right here in the PSCSD is running and currently has an EPNO levy. So.
Christina?
I do want to say that I have also support for levy, and I think that there's some things that have a direct impact to students and this levy. So this is the enrichment portion that parents want. I want to explore a career, or I want to expand my high school or middle school or elementary portion of it. It supports so many other areas across the school district that this is how student impact, direct student impact looks like, and this is through this levy. So it is something that I definitely support.
Students, do you have anything you want to say or just pass it?
Just 100% that this would really impact students. Removing a period from the day of high school would mean so many less course offerings. A lot of people take 7 periods a day, and it would mean lots of those enrichment things. Like if you saw the stock market, and you wouldn't be able to take as many business classes. This would really impact students, and I really hope that we're able to get through it and pass it, because if we don't, that would be pretty tough on the high school and on all of the schools throughout the district, and I really hope that doesn't have to happen.
And a lot of this preparing us for life and to move on comes from our access to these programs. Like, for example, being in a radio program, no, we're not all going to go and be radio broadcasters someday, but it does enhance our ability to do some public speaking or to hold a conversation. And things like marketing, it makes us better at understanding our economy and knowing what sells, even though maybe we're not all going to be salesmen or saleswomen someday. So those are the really beneficial things that we as students appreciate.
Anytime. You're muted.
Yeah, thanks. I'm not going to, keep saying what everyone else has said, but I certainly, of course, support and endorse the levy. It's critical to the high quality of education that we're able to provide our students. It's like the people and the energy that they provide is also critical, but if they don't have the right materials to work with, or if they can't teach as many classes in a day, like, we couldn't do what we're doing, and the things that bring these kids in every week, every meeting to be congratulated on like the amazing accomplishments that they've attained, as well as like much quieter accomplishments that don't make the newspaper. So thanks everyone.
So I guess now I'm looking for a motion to approve Board Policy 1800 OE6 Budgeting and Financial Planning Resolution 747 Authorization of Replacement Educational Programs and Operations Levy.
So moved.
Thank you, Dan.
Second.
Thank you, Christina. Students?
Aye.
Board?
Aye.
Aye.
2050. Thank you very much. All right, now we're at Board Policy 1889 Communications. Go to the bottom. Information Procon Committee for EP&O levies.
Great, so similar to any of our process, we last went through this process with the bond, is we have to now gather interest in those who would like to write the pro and the con statement for our proposition. So I'm going to turn this over to Michelle Mueller, who did a great job, I think, putting our information last time, and we'll take them through it again.
I think you guys may remember a lot of this, but we are required when we put a resolution, or when we put a measure on the ballot, to look for people to write for and against statements for that measure. And so we are, now that the resolution has been approved, we will go forward with our recruitment efforts, which will include tonight's presentation, as well as putting information on our website, posting a flyer at the administration building, running ads on social media, and 2 print ads in the reporter. The deadline for people to submit applications, there's a link at the end of the presentation, and it'll be on the flyers and everything too, for people to submit a form showing their interest. And then I'll provide you guys the information after the deadline on November 7 closes, and you can review that and make a decision at your November 13 meeting. If after the if we don't receive any applications, then we will report that to King County, and they will make an effort to solicit members by placing a public notification on their website. They'll notify us whether they receive any responses, and then the rest is just some information about the committee. If you guys are interested in seeing it, I don't know that I need to go through it all, but the primary thing is just that it's open to residents. You have to be a resident of Mercer Island in order to be on the committee. And I think that's it.
Any questions on process timelines?
Nothing on process or timelines, but just a reminder that there should be no direct or indirect support to either committee from the district, and that we need to remain neutral. There was an issue with an image previous.
I will add that the committees are limited to 3 people, but they are allowed to get support from other.
Yeah, just not from
people, but
the district.
yeah, I just want to make sure that the differentiation is clear.
Thanks, Michelle. Is that something we can do now, or just information?
That's just information.
Michelle just has to do something on it.
Yep.
Okay, so I think we're skipping down now to 4A, Board Policy 1800 OE5 Staff Evaluation and Instructional Practices. And that's an action item where we will be finding the, determining whether or not the district is in compliance.
Great, so I have Nova Williams here tonight, as well as Aaron Miller. This is kind of a joint task between our teaching and learning team as well as our HR team, as they cross over both of those areas. So I'll kick it over to our team.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. The main updates in here are circulating around our changes over just the last couple years regarding teacher evaluation, which was to turn to the updated version of the rubric. So same information was provided to you last year in regard to that change. So just a reminder of that. Some other information that I would share is that we have updated, thanks to Mary Jo Budges and a group of educators that she's working with, Lisa Beanstalk and Emily Mills and Danae Berger, all developing some content for teachers that would help facilitate an understanding of both the rubric and the evaluation process. So that's super beneficial in terms of helping support our teachers in better understanding the process in addition to the rubric. So that was kind of the big update in terms of the changes in trainings and all of that good stuff. I'll turn it over to Erin just to talk about the numbers piece that you can see in that same graphic there. Andrews, if you could scroll down to that part of it, the numbers, please.
Yeah, just a reminder that the evaluation system, all teachers are evaluated every year on one of two tools. One is a comprehensive tool in which teachers are evaluated on all the domains, all the eight different sections. And there's a focus cycle as well where they just are evaluated on one of them. You'll notice with our staff, we have in most of our buildings more people on the focus cycle than the comprehensive. Staff goes through, when they initially come with us, they go through 3 years of comprehensive, and then they move to that focus cycle, and then they could be on the focus cycle for up to 5 years. So us having a veteran staff would allow more people to be on that focused evaluation cycle. You can see that most prominently in our middle school. I'm pretty familiar with that, and the fact that that's probably our population of staff that has the least turnover. So most people are on that focus cycle. Some of our elementaries are a little close to 50-50, but that's just kind of the concept of why we split those numbers out. And once again, you'll see more people on that focus cycle because as you're more veteran of a teacher, you want to hone in on specific skills and specific areas of focus and work rather than spending time on the whole SIP cycle when you've proven year after year that you have been successful in those areas. So that's kind of where those are some updated numbers for this year.
Questions?
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to approve board policy 1800 OE5 staff evaluation and instructional practices. I'm looking to find the principal. Sorry, I'll just start over. I'm looking to find the school or superintendent. Superintendent in compliance with board policy 1800 OE5 staff evaluation and instructional practices.
I move to approve this one.
Okay. Sorry, right? Seconded by Maggie Ty. So students?
Aye.
Board? Aye. Aye, 2050. All right, and then I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. Students?
Aye.
Board?
Aye.
2050. We got this consent agenda so long, sorry. Superintendent report, exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, perfect. Couple things for you. First of all, just a reminder that I'll have an update to our community regarding Mr. Johnston and the allegations of sexual misconduct, sexual assault with one of our former students. So that will be coming out to our community. I wanted to make sure that I updated you tonight on the ways that we're handling that and the steps that we're taking. A couple other things. You had asked before a little bit about hard to fill positions and some of the challenges that we have with some of our positions that are harder to find applicants for. And so our HR team did some work, and there's really 4 areas where we continue to have the most challenge. And the first one is really kind of the speech language pathologist, occupational therapist, school psychologist, People we oftentimes refer to as ESAs because of the nature of their credential, but those can be hard, and that's psychologists are number 10 on the Washington State school shortage list, to give you some perspective. Special education teachers continue to be hard to fill positions. That is the number one hardest to fill position in the state of Washington right now. I think that's a national piece as well. Spanish teachers, and being able to find qualified Spanish teachers, they're the seventh most, the shortage. Spanish teachers are number 7 on the Washington State school shortage area. And the last one are nurses, and really finding nurses there, and they're number 8. So you asked a little bit about where are those areas that are the hardest, and those are the 4 that surface there. I had an opportunity this week, along with Matt. We went down and we attended a training/update on school shootings and what we need to do to continue to protect our schools. What's the best practice out there through our risk management consortium. There are some new things coming online that are going to help our school administrators. We do a great job, I think, with our threat assessments, but they've got some additional resources to support our teams, both before something happens, when we believe there might be something imminent, something during, or even after major incidences. And they don't have to be with guns, but I think it's a nice resource that I appreciate. We learned a lot, but we also, certainly, had to sit through and listen to, some very difficult parts of our school history, especially in the post-Columbine era. But I think we took a lot from it, and then we'll be looking at ways to make our schools even safer. And to that point, Tony Kuhn, who was here, he may have gone, they've been working hard on, is Tony still here? There he is back there. The team has been working hard on the Raptor technologies. And so just to bring you up to date, we had another round of training there. Our Raptor technology, when we have it fully operational, will allow any staff member to put a building into lockdown. It then also creates alerts to all of us with our cell phones, much like the Say Something app. We get alerts and we can communicate in live time. So I think it will be an additional safety feature for our schools and a way that we can continue to try to keep our schools safe. So that's my
Excellent. Life report, Christina or Deborah?
Well, there's not much since last time. We met, when we met? The 9th, yes. So we had, we are planning to have the legislators this November. I think it will be pretty much the day of, I don't think we have confirmed all of them yet, right?
I have news on that.
Okay, so Michelle will. I have been in communication with Michelle, so she has news, so that means that the 3 of them are confirmed yet?
2 of them will be on November 10th, and 1 of them on November 13th, unless you can invite her to come on November 10th.
So the intent of the visit of the legislator, 41st district legislators, is so they can visit the schools. They will go and into the classrooms, have a kind of an overall visit with the schools, and also have some time with the high school students. So I think that means that we are officially going to have to work again together on planning how that will look best for us, for the high school, how does it look that way on that end, and the best way to so we can advocate for what we need with legislators. We're still working very closely. I keep working with Representative San closely, but that's kind of ongoing until November, that they form their report to the House. And then with the coalition, with the town hall, with surrounding neighbors, I think that the date is almost set. They're trying to be January 7th, so they're just defining exactly which if it will be like Washington or Bellevue. I think those are the areas that might go. So I think that I hope that by next meeting, we have a date confirmed. But it is eye-opening to see how many districts are coming together to actually advocate together. There, at last town hall, there were 5 school districts together, this time we're 9. So I hear the stories between this town hall and the meeting between the school directors. And the stories, they look different, but it's the same issue at the same time. So the advocacy is growing among that, and then I think that's pretty much it, right? There's not much. Tell me.
Just the focus of the town hall is well, you were there, I wasn't there, but likely rather to really focus on revenue and how our legislators are gonna work to increase revenue. It's what's been happening is everyone's asking for their piece and they're being told there isn't any. So it just seems to address the
That, and I think that the other is to ensure that legislators will not create any unfunded mandate, and that's absolutely a must. Like this is the time that we're not adding one extra topic in one subject, because if it's not funded, it's a no. So district cannot support themselves that way. So that's pretty much kind of.
I'm not gonna have you weigh in on the levy report if you.
Okay, I can save the comments for my.
Sounds good. Students, I know it's not a meeting where you would report, but is there anything that you wanna say, or are you good?
Oh, actually, past weekend, I had the pleasure of going to the Washington State PTA Legislative Assembly with Tasha Brown and another student from the high school, Joy Rama. And it was super interesting to hear from them and their priorities. Most of it was responding to things happening at the federal level of what their priorities are going to be for the year, but also just lots of great sessions where there was lots of interesting learning, very interesting presentation from the superintendents of Bellevue School District and Spokane School District talking about their differences as school districts, which I found really interesting and enlightening. So that was a really cool experience for me. And then Brody and I today also ran a candidate forum at the high school where we had all 3 of the school board candidates come, and we got some really interesting and insightful questions from students about all sorts of topics. So that's cool.
And Brody's your birthday on November 2nd, coming up, right?
Special meeting.
We'll miss you on that, but happy birthday.
Thank you. Different.
I had the IMS tier 1 team meeting. They call their PAC now a tier 1 meeting. It's really interesting the direction that it's going. Rather than last year, they really started with this in terms of talking about the multi-tiered systems of support, and had a bunch of staff and parents together. What they learned was that because of student confidentiality, that wasn't as productive for the staff as it could have been. So they've split it now, and there's the tier 1 parent meeting is giving information and getting feedback, and then the staff is meeting more to take action. So it's really interesting. There was a deep dive into a lot of actually what we heard today in terms of the iReady assessment tool and the issues with it, and knowing that it's frankly the beginning of the second year that it's being used, especially at the middle school. They presented the same types of issues or concerns. It is, I was able to do just a little quick search. It seems like it's the best tool out there, despite the issues, which, there's always going to be, which I think is great that they're looking at the raw score information to try and identify different ways of looking at growth, but also, looking at it in different ways. So my point is that, we can only pick the best that's out there to assess our students. And it seems like all of the schools on the east, all the schools that we compare ourselves to are either using iReady for assessment or moving to start using iReady for assessment. So we're in the right place, and it's just a matter of continuing to figure out, do you want to assess 2 times a year or 3 times a year, and in what length of blocks. Like this year, they tried 2-hour blocks, and that for the fall, and thought that was too much for 6th, 7th, 8th graders, which I probably agree with after elementary school is 20 minutes. So anyways, my point is they're spending a tremendous amount of time and effort to really figure out the best ways to be able to assess students so that staff can figure out the best way to teach them. And I think that's it.
Christine, do you have any board report?
So, and this is tied to the letter, if I fully miss it. I met with the advocacy team of the PTA advocacy, and they were also focused, they were working together with us, with the town hall, also their General Assembly, but there've been 2 topics that have raised within that group, and mostly is about math, and we have talked a little bit, and I know that you are working with them and talking a little bit regarding that, so that came through. But the other that came through, it was about the iPads at the elementary. This is a question for both of you. It was the time, and if there's a way to track the usage time of iPads, maybe during the week, at what times, but mostly once they go to their homes. Because I think that when my kids were in elementary, the iPad would stay at the schools, and now I think that it's allowed. But some parents are mentioning that there's an issue about how long or how much time. But I think that when we're talking about, I don't know, the electronics addiction, I think that it also, it is important to help elementary parents, say it was particularly in elementary parents, how to support them on how many times, how much time they can use the iPad at home too. And I think that is a battle that also is a parent responsibility, but it is also, if we know how many hours maybe the students are using it at home, if there's a way to block that they're only allowed to have so many time, and have, if they want extra support in different areas academically, they can use other means. But that was a recurring theme between the elementary and the iPads, that once they go home, how many time goes through. So things. And then I had, when I went to the new parents welcome for a brief period, but I also went to the naming committee, the first naming committee, and it was just an information meeting. They just sent it, the information, and then we will meet again at the end of October. So we'll see what the committee recommends to the board.
I guess my comments is sort of looking forward to funding any town halls, and I've shared this information, I know, with you, Christina and Fred, is on an inflation-adjusted basis, revenue per student in the 2019-2020 school year, which was the year after McCleary went into effect, and compensation increased dramatically. It was $18,602, as I calculated. Currently, we're projected on the budget to be spending $20,134 per student. So that's an increase of $1,500. I hope that in thinking of what's best for students, we can think critically as we teach them to do in schools, so we can advocate effectively. And my caution would be a discussion of any funding crisis would seem to run up against those numbers. And I worry that it puts the curriculum in the crosshairs by having a discussion of unnecessary cuts. Like, that is what it is. We can discuss the facts and the interpretation of the facts. But I think the revenue per student on an inflation-adjusted basis is a very relevant number that is going to have questions from the community if we say there's a revenue deficit, rather than just saying it must be the case because every other district is struggling to balance their budget. Maybe there isn't accountability in other districts, and maybe other boards aren't demanding it. Just my thoughts. Otherwise, I would say my PSA announcement, the Mariners, unfortunately, obviously did not go on to the World Series. Cal Raleigh tied Babe Ruth's home run record of 60, and on that, a quote from Babe Ruth is every strike brings me closer to the next home run. So on how to move past failure.
Christina, do you want to respond to about the town hall?
I do. I think I saw the information that you sent, and I think that the information that you sent was entirely complete, because you are showing all the revenues, but at the same time, it is not reflecting all the expenses that we're having, and the inflation, and also the.
It was inflation adjusted, by the way.
I have not finished. It does not reflect the cost of living in, or running the school in Mercer Island. I think that it is maybe with inflation at the federal level, but does not reflect actually the real numbers.
I could run it again on the Seattle metropolitan basis.
And I think that it is, I think that you can see, and this is not only our schools, you can see in each one of the households in this room and this community, everybody is in the same spot. Costs are increasing faster than revenue. Period. That's a fact. And tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me that that you're.
Yeah, I can quote you. The inflation numbers are there.
No, your costs are increasing like every single day, and now like November is coming. The benefits will be coming. We will see how much or not the full increase. Like every single time this is happening. So this is happening to us, and it's happening to districts across the region. We are not in binding conditions, but 9 districts came into binding conditions this year.
And I don't think we should follow their leadership.
Exactly. We are not, and this is why we're advocating. And so this is important, and I think that facts show, and I think that the district has been fantastic in trying to grow slowly, but it is even growing slowly, our reserves. So I actually admire how we're getting there, but I think that there's more to this picture that you're presenting. There's a lot more.
And I'm looking forward to this budget discussion that we'll be having in our next board meeting on November 15th.
We haven't heard an update since August, I believe, right?
Right,
August
and it is
28th.
on the agenda for November 19th. And
For
I'm gonna make my
regular
board report now. I went to the Lake Ridge PAC meeting with our new Lake Ridge principal, Jennifer Cleaves. She does things differently than the previous principal did with her PAC meetings. And so I think it's gonna be fun to watch it shake out, but it was a great group. And we got a lot of good information out there. My own son went to Lake Ridge, and it's always good to come back there. I also went to the high school PAC this morning. And I represented the board at the new family welcome event for most of the evening, except Christina came in before her naming committee meeting. So we got to see all the different community groups that are there, which was great. And lastly, I just want to say we should all put on our running feet and go down to the high school for the orchestra concert at 7 p.m. tonight. Maybe we'll see when the second or third acts. Anyway, don't forget. All right, Maggie, sorry.
Yeah, I'll make this really fast. Just that we have had several complaints this fall about the audio quality of our meetings, and I had mentioned it at a meeting a couple months ago, and Fred asked Andrews to look into it for us. And unfortunately, what came back to us was that it would be really expensive to replace the OWL system, the OWL being the camera that stands in the middle of the room and kind of rotates as people are speaking. It was going to cost approximately $50,000, which seems like, given our current financial situation, not a great idea. So Fred, do you want to tell us a little bit more about kind of what, or have Andrews tell us a little bit more about what he learned about what maybe some other options might be?
Sure. You want to talk a little bit about things that you're working on? I mean, it's a hard piece because where do you spend that money? It's a CapTech expense, and is it more of an audio or is it more of a video piece? So Andrews.
So one thing I would share is, as we were in COVID, I think many people look at the experience in Zoom and want to emulate that in a hybrid meeting, which is both in person and online. Just a reminder, in Zoom, we have an individual camera, microphone, that's roughly about 1.5 feet of our face. So it does frame our face very well, provides great lighting, provides that great microphone experience, which is awesome. And that's absolutely what we want to emulate. So as Maggie Ty mentioned, we did reach out to several companies to come in and provide options for systems that would be able to emulate that. Because of the way our meetings are set up, we have multiple people that are in a U. We have presenters on one side of the room. We have locations in very, people that speak in various areas across the room. It does require multiple cameras to be able to operate. With the space being used for multiple purposes, we're looking at ways to use area microphones as opposed to individual wired microphones, because the space is used for other meetings throughout the week as well, and sort of a multi-purpose room as well. And so that's what leads to some of that cost, is the multiple cameras and being able to tie everything in. We also want to make sure that our meetings can still be flexible, can be run without having multiple dedicated staff on hand as we're presenting. So we'll continue to explore options. We'll continue to look at ways that we can improve audio and visual quality and meet the standards, that we want to present for our community, and we'll continue to make improvements.
Thanks, Andrews.
Thank you.
You hear percent, right? Okay. Oh, okay. So, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, students?
Aye.
Board? Aye. 2050, we're adjourned. Thank you very much. If you take your trip, Deborah.